All right, welcome everyone to our Labor Day special. I'm Eric,
Now, Matt,
and today we
I'm
have
Jace.
joining us. Yes, of course, Jace. Today we have joining us Jace Witman, artist and Dawn collector extraordinaire. How you doing, Jace?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
good man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Jace, we've and actually we've wanted to have you on here for a while. You've got a lot going on in the Romero universe. We'll talk first about your artwork.
Okay.
And you've done several pieces on regarding based on Romero films. Why don't you
Yeah.
talk about that for a minute and how long you've been doing that?
I've been drawing Romero-related artwork since I saw Dawn for the first time, which was when I was 8. Uh, I, obviously seeing Dawn that early had an impact on me, and so zombies took over the Universal monsters that I was drawing, and so throughout all my formative years, I've been drawing zombies, monsters. Trying to replicate things from Romero's movies. I've done Fluffy from Creepshow. Did a painting of that, which sold in my shop. Uh, Tons of Dawn of the Dead related stuff. It's my favorite movie. And I had, I'll show you. I don't know how clear it'll come out. I've got a couple pieces here. Last year, I entered a contest to see how you can see this.
There you go. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
good.
So I took this flyboy painting and this airport zombie painting, combined them in Photoshop, and submitted it for a contest to uh, for Goblins Tour last year, and I was one of 3 that won the contest. Like, they were going to have the 3 of us posters at the merch table, and then one of the members of Goblin, not Claudius Summon Goblin, but OG Goblin, one of them, I'm not sure which one, got sick or something happened, and they canceled the tour.
It's a damn shame too, because they could have got it in just before all this madness.
Right. Well, and I would have got a VIP pass and a meet and greet with Goblin, and had them sign the actual piece, and they were going to be playing in San Francisco. I had DNA Lounge. I think it was DNA Lounge. I had it all picked out. Like, that's the one I'm going to do. I could have traveled somewhere else, but living in Sacramento, about 90 minutes away from San Francisco, so it was perfect. And it's just one of those things. It's like feather in my cap, and then take that feather out.
So did you ever get a copy of the actual poster print or?
No, I got just an email that it had been postponed. And I was in touch with one of the other artists, when it was announced, like one of the other artists and I started communicating and congratulating each other. We never got in touch with the third guy. And we had an agreement. It's like, hey, I'll give you one of mine signed if you give me one of yours signed. So, like, we could have all the artists, signed versions. And it just didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yep. But beyond that, I mean, I'm still drawing George, doing paintings of George. Flyboy is my favorite zombie. One of my favorite movie monsters, too. The portrayal of zombie Flyboy is the best to me.
Now, what you said you saw Dawn when you were 8.
Mm-hmm.
What year is this? And then you said it replaced Universal Monsters as your favorite.
Yeah.
Subject?
This was 1979 in San Francisco. My dad and I lived right down the street from the Coliseum Theater, which is now Walgreens. And I talked him into seeing it because I'd already seen Night on Creature Features. And so I knew the Romero rules, or, I didn't know it was Romero. I just knew that they were connected. So I knew how the zombies were killed going into it at 8 years old, and freaked me out. Of course, I wasn't ready for it. And it's like it changed my DNA, I think. So from, that point on, I was always looking at where I would go to survive if it happened. And now we're in the middle of a pandemic, and it's like I still don't know. Because just like now, the humans are the problem.
Very true.
Well, if a zombie outbreak happens and we're under quarantine, everyone's just going to be locked inside their home, so it'll actually be kind of safer than.
Yeah, except for the ones. There's going to be ones that say there's no zombies, and you're just trying to oppress me, and they just go out anyway, and then create more zombies.
Yeah, true.
You said Dawn of the Dead was your favorite movie. Do you mean of all time or just George's
all
films?
All time. Not just my favorite horror movie, like my favorite movie, period. It has everything. You guys know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it crosses a bunch of genres. I mean, George has, very well said that over the years that it's a comic book movie, and it is, I think, overall tonally different than the other 5 of his zombie films. Just because it covers so many different genres. I mean, it could be considered like a Western and a comedy and an action and a horror. And, the other films of his, touch on that stuff. But it just seemed like with Dawn, he threw bigger chunks of everything in there. And that's what we got with Dawn, where, there's not much humor in Day. And, Land has its own feel. And, Diary's got a touch of this and that, and Survival and everything. So I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards that one, just because it hits you at different times in the movie with different feelings and different genres, and you can just it's all encompassing.
And it's a good buddy cop movie. I mean, it literally is a buddy cop movie. And it's funny, it's scary, it's got my favorite score. It's funny too because we were talking about earlier. There's music that in Dawn that I thought was Goblin for years. It's like, nope, it's a library track, or it's George mixing brilliantly. Library tracks with Goblin, and it's like I don't know how he did it. There's
Especially
still not
with
like
the equipment he was using.
Oh yeah, I know.
Unreal.
The library score stuff, like I'm guessing he was editing on tape with that stuff.
On Reels, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, luckily he was such a great editor that I'm sure that's why he was able to do it. But it's like if you watch the movie, which I just rewatched it over the weekend for my birthday, which was the first time I'd watched it since December. And this time I was just like, man, his editing with the music and the way he layered things, like there's not a definitive soundtrack that incorporates the cues with those layers.
Mm-hmm. What is your preferred cut of Dawn?
Theatrical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, mine was theatrical until I saw the director's cut, whatever you want to call it. I'm just I'm a sucker for more Dawn.
Yeah,
and
it's same thing with the Argento cut though. It's like if the music isn't like that theatrical cut, music is what does it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Having the scores moved around or the songs moved around and losing the library tracks, or just having it not hit the same beats.
The music is almost a character.
It is.
And it's more a character than in any of his other films. Even the other scores that are good, Martin, Creepshow. Mm-hmm. They're fantastic. But like you said, when you watch Dawn, the music's hitting you and it's moving you and you get excited, and it's there's some cues that I wouldn't expect. Like the charge at the end when Peter decides to not kill himself, and I'm not expecting that music to be coming out, and the trumpet charge with the bikers coming in, and you're right, it's like the fifth character in the movie.
Well, it's also funny because George used the music for comedic purposes in certain parts, especially with the zombies in the mall, where just brilliant. And to think that he had the shots lined up and had to be going, what do I put here? And then, there it is.
Yeah, I don't know if that's anything he's ever... I don't remember any interviews where someone said, what were you thinking of music while you were shooting? Or, where did that marriage of using this piece of music come in? How far in advance did he think about that?
Yeah.
Because
well, and then there's the unused Donald Rubinstein soundtrack, which I can see why it wasn't used. Dawn would be a totally different movie, and I've tried to imagine what would go where, and how it would incorporate with the library tracks. Who knows?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see Dawn cut with that soundtrack, because I bought that a couple years ago, and it's actually been a little while since I listened to it. And you're right, I was listening to it, and I was like, ooh, I don't know how I would feel about Dawn if that music was in there, because when you think of Dawn, that music, there's just certain cues your mind picks up, and you start humming them, or you tap them on your fingers. And
you were talking about how the soundtrack was a character, and it's got so many different wild elements all across the spectrum of music. And then to think about Rubinstein's score, it's so sparse. It is. It doesn't really add the flavor that that we've come to know with Dawn. So yeah, maybe somebody could do a fan edit and put something together for us to look at. I'd be game for it.
And even too, like, if you think about it, the soundtrack at the beginning of the film is very different than the soundtrack at the end of the film. It is very horror-like, foreboding up until they get to the mall, and then it takes this turn pretty much through the rest of the film, minus that lull where you see them living in the mall, and it's very calm and piano-like and everything. But yeah, I mean, it changes itself. It almost has its own arc.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just so friends of mine, well, you guys have had the good fortune of, I'm sure many times, visiting Monroeville. I've never been. And a friend of mine was saying, like, when you go, you have to just go and put your headphones in and listen to the Dawn soundtrack when you walk the mall. It's like, yep, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, it's like the first thing you have to do.
Yeah.
Because
weren't you planning on a trip within the last 12 months or so that kind of got sidetracked, or was it last June?
It was last June.
Okay.
Yeah, and couldn't make it because of financial stuff.
We're gonna get you out here.
Oh yeah,
I
plan on it, and I'll be totally fangirling out, just like.
Good, you're supposed to.
Yeah.
You have to have fun in the mall. I mean, that's it's the first time you go, you're like, you're excited, you're nervous, you're like, how do I take it all in? And then you start having fun. And then every time I go back, I try to do something different or find something new, just because, I can drive out there any day and it's still like the first time. Like when I get there, I still get excited and giddy when I see the mall come into view. And I think almost every time I'm playing some part of the soundtrack when I pull up, because you have to. Yeah. And you're playing it in your head, and it's like a playground.
Well, so me and Matt get a little extra rush out of being there with someone for the first time as well, because we can kind of, your enthusiasm and your newness it's contagious. We can capture that feeling once again ourselves.
I guess it's like being a parent and taking your kid to Disneyland for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can relive it now.
Yeah.
That's
and it's right, because we'll be walking in the mall and be like, oh yeah, well there's that pillar, and then there's that spot, and you like walk by it because you're going to do something else. But when you're there with someone the first time, you've got to like be on, you're rediscovering, and your adrenaline starts rushing. Like, oh wait, I forgot to show you this, and you like, let's run over here real quick and I'll show you, and then this is where they lined up. You don't get to do that all that often, especially when you're there. Me and Eric have been there so many times. You just walk around. Yeah, we're just happy to be inside the building.
Yeah.
Yeah. We usually have a store in mind.
Yeah.
When we go in there, it's like, let's hit Hot Topic. I'll be at Sbarro.
Yeah.
No, and don't hold that information from us, Jace. Let us know when you're going. We want to be there.
For sure.
Oh yeah. No. I told Jace he just has to give me warning, and I'll be off work, and I'll be there at least one day to give you the dime tour, just because it's so fun to see people go for the first time and go and they have fun, because I've been able to do it so many times. And I'm like, oh, did you go here? And they're like, oh, I didn't even think about it. It's there's a list of 100 things to go see in there, or do, or take a picture at, and it feels like there's never enough time. And we've spent sun up to sundown in that place. I think every time we've walked back to the hotel or something, we're like, oh, we forgot to do that. There's always something you forget to do, even been going out there 20 years. And you make it on this. Oh yeah, I get a picture from this angle this time, and thousands of pictures of the mall, and I still don't feel like I have enough. It's just, I don't know, something about it.
There's always something new to do too. There's something new to check off the list.
Yeah,
even for us.
Yeah. Watching the movie in the mall. I've watched it in the mall twice. Once back in 2008, they put a big blow up screen at the one end that was for Horror Hound, and then watching it. 3 times. I watched it when they built the movie theater. That was the non 3D version, and we saw the 3D version last year. So it is neat to watch it there, even though it's on the site of the old pennies. You kind of feel a little bad about it, but it's one of those things where you can watch the movie where it was filmed, and you can't say that much about a lot of films.
Right. And I'm envious of you guys because you've seen 3D version, and I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
That was great. I mean, that was almost 10 years in the making, hearing about it before we saw it.
Right.
And
it was like Titanic, where it's like, it's never going to come out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, Eric, you had posted or replied to a comment about us watching it in the theater where, we cheered at certain spots, but everyone was watching. And we were all watching it like it was the first time we had seen it. And we didn't want to miss anything. And that was great because we were all looking for that 3D-ness to see what was there. And it surpassed my expectations because I wasn't sure what to expect. And I'm like, well, 3D can get real hokey real quick. But it definitely worked. It worked to its advantage.
Well, what they did is, I mean, a lot of these films that come out in 3D, I'd say 90% of them that come out in 3D are just post-processed, where they just run it through a filter and you basically have about an inch of depth. But what Richard has done is it's a legit frame by frame. He basically, whatever's in the background that doesn't move, he'll create a concrete kind of template of that background that doesn't move, and whatever does move, that's kind of like a traveling 3D mat, if that makes sense. That's kind of in the foreground or appropriately placed in the shot. It's really well done, and they've enhanced it in a couple of places when you shoot the seltzer bottles. Oh man, that was a blast. And there's do you know excuse me, the zombie that pinches or when Roger's leg, when he's getting in the VW, and then Peter he doesn't use the scope, he kind of lowers the gun and blows a zombie away. That zombie's head, it comes at the screen. I mean, it's so amazing.
Oh, really?
Because you're not expecting it, because it's not in a regular movie. And it's like, whoa!
Yeah. Well, even when he breaks the glass on the roof, and there's this it's animated glass, but it was a pretty neat effect because it's just this glass is shattering in your face. And, again, like you said, it wasn't done hokey. It was done just enough to get the effect across. And I was thinking about it because I got a text the other day from Bob, and he was like, the 3D version of Friday the 13th that's coming out in that Shout Factory set, he goes, is 3D still a thing? And I said, no, man, 3D is pretty much dead. But I mean, that's the type of film that lends itself that we should have a copy of it to be able to watch. And it's the 3D version of Dawn. We're kind of limited on it. I mean, I don't think any one of us has a 3D TV or 3D Blu-ray player that
I have PSVR. PSVR does full 3D. Like if you have PlayStation and the VR, and the 3D stuff that I've watched, like on 3D Blu-rays, PlayStation will play it, and the VR makes it 3D. And with the headset, it's pretty good.
Okay.
So I would definitely buy.
Is that on the PS4?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's not a super bad investment if you wanted to get some 3D movies, I guess. So, I mean, if he comes out and says Dawn's coming out on 3D, I guess I would buy a PS4 just to be able to watch it. And
Well, you need the PS4 and the VR, but I think the
Well,
VR is pretty reasonable now.
Yeah, I was gonna say in terms of buying a Blu-ray 3D player and a 3D TV, the investment is small. You know, I mean, I have 1 or 2 3D Blu-rays, but I mean, it's not like I'm gonna be watching them.
Right.
In anticipation of that Friday set that's coming out, I actually purchased a 3D projector because you can't get the TVs anymore. So I got a projector, and I'm working on the mount and everything now. But yeah, I'm planning on, and I just happened to, one of my Blu-ray players happens to handle 3D, so I got to get the glasses and everything. But yeah, with that in mind, now I'm just praying for Richard to follow. And what's funny is when I find going through all the reviews, I finally found the projector that I wanted that could handle the 3D, and I noticed they sold out all across the web. And I guarantee you, it's these Friday the 13th people. Yeah. So as soon as it came back in stock, I pounced on it. But the fact that they were selling out that fast let me know it was a pretty good one. So, but yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for Richard. Hopefully he does that, because I don't see any other way he's going to make that money back for like $6 million he put into that project.
He won't, and that's the big question: is he willing to just make some money now?
Well, I mean,
he licenses the likeness for all kinds of stuff. Lunchboxes, socks, which I like because I buy all that stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, the real money is getting a comprehensive, box set in the US.
Yeah.
And he has been, for whatever reason, just more hesitant about keeping that close to the vest and not giving that back to fans in the States. The whole overseas thing is another animal, but we haven't had a new release of Dawn since 2008, 2009, when they ported the theatrical to Blu-ray here in the States. And it's now going on 16 years since that big box set. And it's like, I understand his preference is more the 3D, and we'll get into that a little bit here when we talk about your screening. But it is really weird that it's, I don't want to say it's an all or nothing, but it's definitely
it is.
It is like the Lucas, this is the Star Wars that you're going to get. You're never going to get this one again. And people are like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, we want the Dawn of the Dead 3D. It's nice to have, but it shouldn't try to replace the versions that we want to watch, because you're super limiting people on this if it ever gets released. So what, I don't know what the mentality is as to why he hasn't released it and why it took 10 years. I mean, it probably took 10 years to raise the money. I mean, I remember it being announced in 08, 09, and we saw it in 18.
Well, I think your answer lies in the fact that he licensed it to the UK. He's okay with it selling over there, but he's still got all that theatrical 3D money to make in the States before he's, planning on doing the release here, I suppose.
And I've seen, I'm sure you guys have seen it too, where there was word that it was going to get a wide theatrical release in 3D and never happened. Now, of course, it's like, how can it happen? I mean, maybe it can. I'm wondering if 3D will come back in theaters more after all of this, just to try and bring people back.
That's something good. You bring up something there, Jace, because Dawn of the Dead, it is popular, but is it popular enough for that? Apparently not.
Not to go wide.
Yeah, no, so maybe that does place it in the kind of cultish realm as opposed to widespread acceptability.
It's got a cultural impact, but to a broad spectrum. I mean, I doubt I'll ever see it play in a theater here in my area for more than a regular one-off screening. It's not going to get a 2-week run outside of a major market or the small festivals. And
it played, and there was a holding page for Alamo Drafthouse for a while. And I had it bookmarked, and I kept going back and looking at it, and I even emailed them. It's like, hey, are you going to get this movie? There's no Alamo Drafthouse here in town. There's one in San Francisco, and I was willing to drive the 90 miles to go see it there.
Yeah, the closest one to me is I have 2 within about 2 hours. They're both in Northern Virginia, and I've driven to them for a couple of screenings. And I remember that was last fall, right? Or was it earlier? Yeah, it was like last fall, and they were like, it's coming, and you were like, there's no dates, there's no locations. It was just kind of like, yeah, they must have gotten far enough to be able to announce it, and then something must have happened. And
yeah, something
know,
definitely happened. Yeah,
it's weird. I think we've talked about this before. It's like we have the money, we have the desire, we want to give it to him.
Yeah,
and it's like he won't take our money. Why won't you just give us Dawn of the Dead stuff? And I'm glad Fright Rags did their T-shirts and stuff, and there's Trick or Treat Studios is doing their stuff and whatever. But it's like we're still missing that one piece, and it's that
what they the fact that Trick or Treat keeps dipping their toes back in those waters. They must be having good success with those releases. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep doing it year after year.
Yeah, I mean the company.
Remember that Nika license dried up pretty quick. I don't know what happened there, but it's nice to see. Because a couple of weeks here, you've got that Flyboy mask and the airport bust coming out in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and we've said it. I think we've said it many times on the show. Is we want more than Flyboy and the airport zombie,
right?
That's all we get. And when you look at, I don't know if it's NECA, but they're doing those Jaws figures, and they just announced they're not doing the Roy Scheider one, and I'm like, why can't we get that for Dawn?
Was it NECA or Reaction?
It might be NECA because they were the full size. They were like the 10-inch dolls with the cloth clothing and all that. Like, why can't we get that? And again, there's multiple moving parts and stuff, and very reductionist to say just give it to us. But there's a market.
I think we would all buy Peter and Roger and Steven and Fran action figures. I know I would.
Yeah, day one purchase. Daniel Larry says it's NECA.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Jace, I got a question from an artist perspective. We just kind of bitched about Flyboy and Airport Zombie, but you showed us two paintings earlier, Flyboy, Airport Zombie. Why don't you talk about, from an artist perspective, what those characters do for you?
Flyboy is my favorite zombie, and just the makeup is awesome, and the Airport Zombie as well. Like, I think that's one of Savini's best on Dawn, and I mean it's iconic. And the poster zombie, and it's with those things. It's just, for me, like, from an art standpoint, I'm always like, what do I want? And I have an unfinished piece of Ken that I did, and there's a Colbert photo of Fran that I want to do a piece of that's really cool that I saw last year. It's like, oh, I've never seen that photo. And but it's just, what I want. And so on that note, I did do a Roger Rising in that same series, and my friend Harry bought it.
I think that's the one we used for this announcement.
It is.
Yeah. And that's another figure I wouldn't mind having a bunch of, because there's not a lot of them, is that Roger sitting up as a zombie. Or it's easy to say what I want. But I mean, when you get, I think this is what, our third or fourth set of Flyboy and Airport Zombie figures in the last dozen years, if not less. I think we just want something a little different.
I would even buy some biker figures at this point.
Oh yeah, or like a little set of the main. You said the main four figures. We could get the main four zombie set.
Sure.
Yeah. Like Jace Dover,
The
Sharon,
nurse.
Clayton.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be amazing. There's make a figure. I'll buy it. I don't care.
Yeah.
At this point.
Well, I mean, when you go online, you see people talk about Dawn of the Dead. They love it, and they've got, they got the posters and the T-shirts. I mean, if you start tweaking what you're giving, you're going to get that much more. It's like, oh, I've never seen that logo. Sharon sells that shirt with the zombie logo on it and says, I am a zombie. It's like, it'd be awesome to do here in the States, if someone was allowed to, because it's just different. We don't get that old, Bob Michelucci, Roger Rising, poster or shirt anymore. That was the original VHS cover.
Right.
That was the cover until the 90s, man. That's what you bought.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of disappeared. And, I don't know if, Bob technically owns the rights to that or what the deal is, but that's another poster I would like to have, on the wall.
Or
like,
maybe use it for the art for one of the Blu-rays.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Go ahead, Jace.
I would buy that artwork signed by Bob. Like if he did limited prints of that. I don't know if he's done that, or I don't know if there's rights issues. You know, that's the whole thing with the Richard rights. I don't know. I don't know if he's stopping people from doing Dawn-related stuff. I can assume that he is.
I think he's got an eye out for some stuff. I think when it's more out there and mass produced, I think he's kind of caught wind of it from time to time. But again, it is his property, and he has every right to. But we don't have anything, and we have this appetite, and we're just chomping at the bit, ready to throw our debit card online and say, "All right, I got two of them." You know, it's like, God, we just want Dawn stuff, and we can't get it, and I don't know if that's ever going to change.
Do you guys have the Roger Pillow Pal?
Yes.
No.
I want it.
I got it last Christmas.
That's
I
my
made my mom get it. For
me.
I've just been back and forth on whether or not I want to get that or not.
You can put that in your bed.
Oh yeah.
Scare your wife.
Yeah. I know. I don't know why I haven't grabbed it. I don't know. There's just it's going to be one of those. It's going to be one of those. I'm going to end up waiting like 6 months, and I'm going to find it. And I'm going to be like, you know what? All right, I'm going to get it now. And it's again, I like it. It's neat. It's different. I just don't know why I have it. I gotta have it.
And I think part of it is just the fact of what it is. I was just thinking about it the other day. It's like, where do I put that in a display? You know, I've got like the Death Studios Airport Zombie that is really cool. That's been the thing too, is seeing some of the, you know, I have a lot of the Trick or Treat Studio stuff, but their Airport Zombie is good, but the Death Studios one is really good.
Yeah, you were talking about organizing earlier, and I was doing the same thing last night. I went out and bought some Craftsman totes at Lowe's yesterday, and I was like, I have stuff sitting on a shelf that doesn't need to be displayed, but there's that part of my DNA as a collector is like, well, if I collect it, it's got to be out, because then if I put it away, why do I even have it?
Right.
But then when I look at my shelves, I'm like, it's a cluttered mess, and I'm just putting stuff out because I have it, and it's like I'll put it away, and if the day ever comes where I can display it, or it's something that doesn't technically need to be displayed, you just like to look on the shelf because you put it away, and I'm going to go back in 6 months and go, oh, shit, I forgot I had that. And I hate that.
And that's my thing, is because I showed you guys earlier, and it's a mess. I've got like the single IKEA glass shelf for all my Dawn stuff, and just the Dawn stuff, it's so full that I can't really display anything properly. And so now I'm incorporating my night stuff into it. So I've got to figure something else out.
Yeah.
Because like displaying it, like you're merchandising it, you know, for like in a store, that's really what I want to do.
Yeah.
Like maybe get a bunch of shelves up.
Yeah. And you run out of room real quick, because then you're like, well, I can't display. I have this poster, or I have these smaller posters I want to put up. And like you said, I think that's it, is you put it up like merchandise.
Yeah.
You know, and then I see people that, you know, have a shelf, and it's just, there's stuff everywhere. There's like 3 layers deep. And
That's
I'm like,
mine. Yeah,
I have to get better at that, because you run out of room quick if you're trying to put, oh, I just got these 3 figures, I'm going to put them on this like this so I can see all 3. But then you have these odd collectibles, these odd shapes, these odd sizes. They don't particularly fit well anywhere.
Yeah.
And you just don't know what to do with them. And it gives me like a low level anxiety when I look at stuff, and I'm like, I want it out, but I can't. If I put this piece out, I have to put 5 other pieces somewhere else that I really want to see too.
Putting stuff in a box on a shelf, I understand, like, just to, I might do that with my magazines, you know, because I have all my magazines with Dawn articles basically on the same shelf as all of my lobby cards, vinyl, laser discs. You know, there's no.
Briefly about lobby cards, because that's something I've never dipped into. I actually almost bought one the other day, but the price got out of control. But I don't know. That's one area of collecting that I don't know. It just hasn't. It's not tugging at me.
Well, I have my lobby card collection is not comprehensive by any means. I mean, I've got some good ones, like the The UK lobby set is really cool. I've got which may be a fake Thai lobby set that I bought last year. I did a Dawn of the Dead Thursday about it, and people were like, "That's fake." It's like, it might be, but it's cool, and it wasn't expensive, so it's like, okay, yeah, I'll buy that.
Who?
And
Anyone we know, or was it pretty official? The fake, the people declaring fake.
I think so. Yeah, I think
people in the know.
Yeah, like Larry.
Okay.
Yeah, lobby cards are an interesting collectible, to say the least. Because
I like the Photobustas, the Italian like giant lobby cards. I've got like 4 or 5 of those, and I bought that set as a lot, like an incomplete lot, mainly because the one that I like the best is the basement zombies, which is my favorite scene in the film.
Yeah, I just got a set of Photobustas of Deep Star 6, and I didn't buy the set because I wanted
the full-size ones. Are they pretty big?
Yeah, they're like small posters.
Yeah,
basically
they're like 24 by not 24 by 36, but close.
They're almost 18 by 24 a lot of times, and I got 4 or 5 of them, and I'm like, I'm never going to display these. It came with a big set of Deep Star 6 stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool, and I'm like, all right, roll them up, put them in the poster tube. Forget I have them for a couple of years, and maybe I'll be able to display one, sometime somewhere.
I actually had that Dawn Photobusta set. It was incomplete. I don't remember. I maybe had 8 out of 11. I really don't remember. I was missing maybe 3 of them. And it's funny. I did frame them and I put them on the wall. After a couple of weeks, I was like, "That's entirely too much Dawn of the Dead. That's more than that's deeper than that's more than I want on the wall." And I sold them on eBay. And this is back in like 2005. I actually sold them to Larry.
Oh, that's funny.
This is before we knew each other. This is back, 2005, 06. And then he posted around 11 or 12. He posted them on Facebook. I'm like, holy shit, Larry, those are my Photobustas.
He's got a couple that I need that I've seen him posting, and it's like, it's just that thing. I mean, that's the weird thing with lobby cards for me. Like, if I could find a full set, I'm gonna buy it. If I could find a couple, like I've got an incomplete German set, and it's just basically the images. And so, like the Photobustas for Dawn that I don't have aren't images that I really want, and so it's hard to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I want to circle back to something Eric said. Too much Dawn of the Dead.
I'll show you the picture.
I'm sorry. Who are you again?
No, I'll show. I have a picture of it that I still have saved, and if I can find it, I'll put it on this broadcast. Maybe it's on this computer. But you'll see it was the whole wall. I mean, it's not. I guess not enough variety of Dawn of the Dead. Maybe one sheet should have been in there to mix it up.
But too much Dawn of the Dead. Come on, man.
But I mean, it's literally almost like just as if I'd taken just a bunch of
entire wall.
Oh yeah, and I didn't even have them all.
Yeah, so. I have one set of lobby cards, Night Riders. I think they're Spanish or Italian. I got them a couple years ago, and I have a set of Blair Witch lobby cards. Yeah, they're so super cool, but that's right. He's fired. I'm in search of a new co-host. Send applications to WGON Radio at. No. But yeah, no, lobby cards. I mean, and Peter had said it too in the comments. Poster card or lobby cards are awesome, and I never remember growing up and going to the movies and seeing them. And they may have been there when I was a kid and into the 90s, and it seems like 2000, 2001 they kind of trailed off, and now they're this very niche collectible that when I go by and I see lobby cards, I'm looking through them, even though I know these are never going to be displayed anywhere. But yeah. They tend to have either artwork or scenes that you don't see anywhere else. And I think that's the appeal to them, because you wouldn't see a poster with those basement zombies on it.
Right.
Where certain action shots you wouldn't see, but they're there to promote the movie in the theater by showing you something different. So to me, that's the cool thing about them.
Well, and then the interesting thing is thinking about in Italy, the Photobustas are, I mean, for a while, I think from the 50s to the 70s, they were pretty standard. and I don't know how they were displaying them in the theater. And then their posters, those grande, well, the giant Dawn posters that I have,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, how were they displaying that? Or were they just putting that outside?
I've seen a lot of lobby cards with pinholes in them, so they must have put them on the walls going to the theaters or somewhere in the lobby, probably advertising upcoming movies before they had the poster, maybe, because I've seen a lot with pinholes. So they must have been putting them up somewhere.
When I was a little kid watching movies at my old neighborhood movie theater, they had lobby cards up for Piranha. And I remember one of the cards was like the decapitated head with the fish bites out of it. It freaked me out. And so like I still remember, and it's funny because it's not like Piranha is one of my favorite movies, but I have fond memories of that lobby card being up. So it worked for me as a little kid.
Well, you mentioned earlier about we talked about the rights, and we kind of moved back, but you have the rights to Dawn of the Dead, that is theatrical in the United States, and you actually put on a screening, I believe it was late last year, and you have some insight into dealing with the rights holders of Dawn of the Dead. Can you talk about that a little bit, and how did and talk about a little bit about how the screening just came to be in general? How'd you get the idea?
The idea came about in a really weird way because I was working for the library, and it was during my training for the library that they had said that there is a system on the library's website that's tied into the Sacramento Bee, which is our local paper, and they have a digitized archive that you can search by keyword. And so just the way my mind works, I thought, I raised my hand. It's like, can I look at movie listings that way? He said, yeah, any advertisements you can find that way. And so I was like, so I can find a particular movie from the 70s and find out where it played and when? He said, yes, you can. And so that was the first thing I did. And then I had...
Oh, sorry.
Okay, there we go.
It was the filibuster, sorry.
Yeah. Those are ginormous.
Yeah, it's just a little too much.
Yeah, for sure. So I found out that Dawn had played at 3 places in Sacramento. One of them was the Tower Theater, which is close to where I live, and a place that I've been going since I've lived in Sacramento. And it's a nice art house theater. And so I was already doing Dawn of the Dead Thursday at that point, and I had the idea of contacting the theater to see if I could do like a live shot or remote about it playing at Dawn of the Dead or playing at the Tower Theater in '79. And as just like to get my foot in the door, I threw into my email to corporate that I was interested in doing a screening of Dawn, if at all possible, just because I thought that they would, the financial incentive would make them more receptive to me. And it sure did. And so then they're like, yeah, let us know what you need and come on through. And so suddenly it was like, well, wait a minute. I could actually show Dawn at one of the theaters it was shown at in '79 for the 40th anniversary. And so my friend Leif Yonker, who runs the Wichita Horror Fest, had actually shown Dawn 3D at his fest. And he had already dealt with Richard Rubenstein, and he and I had talked about it, because when he announced he was doing Dawn 3D, I was asking him, like, he was telling me how he previewed the DCP of Dawn 3D in the theater before the screening and was saying how cool it was. And he gave me insight on how to deal with Richard. And the irony is I never dealt with Richard himself. All of my correspondence was through his assistant, Akiko, who was really cool. And so once I started the ball rolling, it was how much does it cost? And they wanted kind of a 50-50 split where they want to know how many seats in the theater, how many days, how much I'm going to charge. And then so after we got through that, they just said, we'll just do a flat fee. And then the problem was I was looking at one of the smaller theaters at the tower, which has 3 screens. And, just for financial reasons, once it was like, oh, I could actually do this, I was like, oh, I'm going to go for the big screen. But they would only show Dawn 3D. They'd only license Dawn 3D to me, like a DCP of it. And so that worked for me because I was thinking I was going to have to find someone with an actual 35 millimeter print and rent it from them and then ship it and then worry about shipping it back and what the quality was going to be like. And so the DCP helped me quite a bit. And so the hiccup was then in dealing with the management of the theater. They're like, we don't do 3D. And so I had the email from them saying they don't do 3D. And I sent that over to New Amsterdam, Richard's company, and said, oh, I wanted to do business with you, but they won't do 3D. Is there anything else we could do? And then she said, let me go check and see. And within a few days, she wrote back and said, yeah, Richard has approved to do a one-time exclusive 2D showing. And so then we negotiated the price on that, which was expensive. And then I had to take out a loan to rent out the theater itself. And then it happened. Mm. But it's funny because I didn't ever communicate directly with Richard on it. It was all through his assistant. And from what I heard, he was busy. I think he was working on the stand or something like that. Because, Stand's coming up.
Just curious. Yeah. I mean, what kind of attendance numbers were you going to need to break even?
I would have. So the screening or the screen that I picked, I think, was a 400 seat, and I would have needed about 200, 250 to break even, and I think I got 100. Mm-hmm. And so it was a beautiful screening. I mean, it was in the best theater. Probably the actual screen that it screened on originally, like the main screen in the theater. And everyone there was super respectful and cool. And it was scary for me because I'd never done anything like that. Never done a screening at all. And then that's like the big one. As I've said to friends, it's like I did the Mount Everest of movie screenings, like the most difficult screening you could do. I did it. And so I was like, I'm going to use this to kick off a series of zombie movie screenings. And so I negotiated to do Let Sleeping Corpses Lie as my next screening at the same theater, except I was going to do it in one of the smaller screens, so it'd be less money for me, and negotiated the licensing fee, which is a fraction of what Dawn cost. Dawn was expensive.
Mm-hmm. Or you still have that on your plate? Are you maybe thinking about doing that in the future?
In the future, for sure. With the COVID stuff, nothing's open here still. And it's like, I don't know if people would come out now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people will because they've been wanting to do stuff for a while, but then you do have the people that are going to remain cautious, and it's going to be some time before everybody feels comfortable to go out, and places like movie theaters and restaurants don't have such restrictions on coming in.
I had played with the idea because they're doing cool screenings of retro movies at the drive-in here. So we have a drive-in here. I thought, it would be cool to do a zombie movie at the drive-in.
Yeah, that's
then
the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, drive-ins have been, booming business this summer. The Mahoning up here by me does all 35 millimeter.
Wow.
And they just did
that's where you saw the Bruce Campbell one, right?
Yeah. They just did Camp Blood this weekend, and it was, Pieces, The Mutilator, Friday the 13th, 3, nice. 4, and 7.
Wow.
Yeah, they're doing Creep Show and Halloween 3 on Halloween.
Awesome.
From Dusk Till Dawn, and I forget, I think Halloween maybe.
Pieces would be so amazing in a drive-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked, I mean, I was seeing pictures from friends that were there, and it's, that's the way to go. I mean, a lot of people saw these in drive-ins back in the day. So, I mean, I would hope to think that drive-ins will sustain their climb back up into some relevance after everything, quote unquote, goes back to normal. But I think watching a film at the drive-in like that is better than watching it in a theater, even though a lot of people probably saw it in the theater. But I mean, there's just something about a drive-in and a retro old movie that just gives you that full atmosphere that you can't get anywhere else.
The main thing for me, like with a drive-in screening, is it eliminates the people problem that I've had. Like I was having issues with audience members, like just getting angry, people being on the phone, talking during the movie, just stupid audience stuff. And so at the drive-in, you don't have that problem really. If someone's on their phone or playing a game, it won't affect your viewing.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me this. I mean, I've only been to one drive-in in my life, and that was down in Tampa because they're just not around this area. But how do you battle like I mean, I don't know. You're in California. I imagine it's pretty hot out there. It's hot as hell down here. How do you battle like the AC problem in this, summer nights? You leave the car running or what?
You have to, yeah.
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 Well, and because you're running the audio through your car stereo.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the Mahoning, most people do not sit in their cars. They do sit outside with a boom box, and even on a humid night. Like I was up there in June, and it was hot and humid for a while, but then I think around midnight, 1 a.m., it actually started to get cold. So it can be kind of comfortable and it poured last week when I was there 2 different times, and it's a catch-22. You got to worry about the weather more than anything. But I think people, if they're at the drive-in, they don't care. They'll sit outside. They'll sit in the weather. As long as it's not cold and freezing, they're going to sit outside. And some people sit in their cars, obviously, and run the AC and listen to it through the stereo. But most people, it's kind of like an event. It's not just going to the movies. Going to the drive-in is like a party atmosphere where you can sit and hang out. You kind of tailgate a little bit. But yeah, no, going back to the drive-in after not being there for like 30 years has been fun. Because everyone's there for the same reason. They're hanging out. It's not like going to the movies. You show up, you hang out in the lobby for a minute, you watch the movie and leave. Usually the drive-in, you get there early, you park, you can hang out, and it turns into more of an event than just going to the movies.
Well, especially like that Bruce Campbell one. I saw like they had like a VIP thing where you could stay overnight if you wanted to.
Yep.
Which, I mean, if you're traveling a long distance for the show, that makes sense.
Yeah, the Mahoning, it's only about 90 minutes for me, and I decided a bunch of friends were camping out, and I said, well, let's camp out and have a good time. And you don't have to go anywhere at 4 a.m. when the last movie ends or whatever it is, and you wake up, you're already there, you're just hanging out, and that's part of the appeal to the Mahoning is that you can camp right on the lot. You don't have to camp somewhere else. And you can watch the movie from your tent if you want to. If it ends up raining, you can go inside your tent. So yeah, I mean, it's one of the coolest places around. And I'm going to go back up there for Monster Mania when they do their Halloween events on the weekend of Halloween, just because, well, I've never seen Creepshow on 35 millimeter and Halloween 3 on 35 millimeter, Dusk Till Dawn. And again, I can't remember the damn other one. Probably is Halloween. But and you can walk right up to the projection booth. It's wide open.
Oh, that's cool.
And they have the original 71-year-old projectors still running. And they show you the reels where they wind it back up and everything. And it's just super cool to watch them project the movie right from the ground level. And it's just, I could sit and watch from the projection booth all night. It's just fun to hear the reels clicking and the projector going. So yeah, hopefully, maybe do that sometime. Cause that's just, I don't know. They're the talk of the town. Drive-ins, man, they're back.
Yeah, when I moved to Sacramento with my dad, what's hilarious is I've got a weird drive-in story where he had his old friend, this old guy named Hank, watch me one night. I was 10 years old, and so Hank said, "Oh, I'll take you to the drive-in. You get to pick the movie." It's like, okay. We went, and at the drive-in, the same one that's here in town, I picked a double feature of Without Warning and Deranged,
nice,
which was awesome. They're still 2 of my favorite movies just because of that. And so I was watching it going like, holy crap, what is this movie? Both of them. And my dad's friend Hank is sitting there in the driver's seat going, Jesus Christ. The whole thing, because Deranged is pretty rough.
Yeah. That's the one where that dog gets strangled, right?
It's the Ezra Cobb, like the fake Ed
Oh,
Gein.
it's the Ed Gein. I'm thinking the other
Yeah.
one. What's the? There's another one Savini did right around that time about the guy that came home from
Death Dream.
Death Dream. That's it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was thinking Death Dream. I'm with you now. That's actually a pretty good one. Deranged.
Without Warning is awesome too. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah, I've got the Blu-ray.
Yeah, and
I mean, it's not my. It's fun. I'll give it
it's
that.
like a precursor to Predator, if you think about it. You know,
Oh,
this
boy.
alien coming and collecting human trophies.
A poor man's Predator.
Yeah, Stan Winston did the Alien too.
I think like Dean Cundy shot that thing too.
Probably.
Yeah.
And it's got Jack Palance and Martin Landau and someone, Cameron Mitchell or somebody like that. You know, it's got a weird cast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fun. It's silly. Reminds me of a Star Trek original series special effects a little bit, but
Oh yeah, with the flying discs.
the discs and the main bad guy kind of looks like that one dude who's in the credits, that alien from the credits. You know the one.
From the episode of Tranya.
We'll go with that.
Clint Howard as the little alien, where he's using that puppet.
I think so.
Yeah, I think you're right. It does look like that.
But it's been a minute since I've seen Without Warning. But Without Warning would have been new, and then Deranged would have been about 10 years old, right?
Deranged was probably it's. I mean, it was a revival of it. I just spilled water on myself. But yeah, Deranged was early 70s, I think, and Without Warning was pretty new. So I think Without Warning was like the A picture.
Mm-hmm. One thing I wanted to talk about is, and it's something that you've revived here recently, was your Dawn of the Dead Thursdays.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about how that originated and just a little bit about what it is.
It originated on Facebook because Matt and I were both posting Dawn of the Dead stuff on the same day, which was a Thursday. And our mutual friend Christy, who runs Trash from Orgy here in Sacramento, was friends with both of us and saying, like, you guys are on opposite sides of the country and you don't know each other and you're doing the same thing right now. And so we became friends through that. And then we just started doing Dawn of the Dead Thursday and just tagging it. And that's how it started. And Matt and I actually
that's how you guys met?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, I got a message from Christian. She said, you need to meet my friend Jace. He's like a super Dawn of the Dead collector. Do you know him? And I was like, no, I've never heard of him. Mm-hmm. And she goes, here, I'm going to introduce you guys. And that just kind of kicked off because she said the same thing. She goes, you guys are literally posting it on Facebook at the same time. And she's like, she's scrolling down her feed and there's me, there's Jace. And then she's like, these guys don't know each other. They should.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And that Matt and I did a aborted like podcast for Dawn of the Dead Thursday, where we both recorded. It was like 3 or 4 hours, like just rambling
marathon.
Yeah, and it's
what was
like
the content? Just talking about Dawn of the Dead?
Yeah, just Dawn of the Dead and each other's experiences in how we saw it and what we collect and who we know and all that stuff. And the only reason I didn't put it out was because I didn't like how I turned out. You know, my side of it, you know, just very self-critical. I still have the audio somewhere, so maybe I'll dig out a little piece of that.
Yeah, I think I have it somewhere too on a hard drive. But yeah, no, it was kind of fun because when my Facebook memories scroll up, it's like Dawn of the Dead Thursday, and it's like posting this and then posting this, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, I remember we did that every Thursday. Yeah. But like Eric said, it kind of evolved, and you kind of took the ball and ran with it, and talk a little bit about how that came to be and what you're doing with it, because I don't know if a lot of people know that.
Well, I started off with the weird thing. Like at that point, my collection was pretty big. I mean, it's bigger now. And so I just started off kind of as an overview. I think episode 1 was just VHS that I had. And so I just, know all you see is my hands moving. And I created this kind of a loop of sound effects and the drum beat from Goblin's music. And just as like an audio bed to put underneath it. And so the first one was the original first few were just overviews of what I collected. So there was one that was like my VHS, and then there's one that was my Laserdiscs, one that was my vinyl, and it just went from that to then becoming kind of my unboxing as I kept accumulating. And so the Insidious thing was then it gave me kind of a roundabout excuse for buying Dawn stuff. Like I could justify it in my mind. It's like, oh, I need this. I could do an unboxing of this. You know, even I did an unboxing of a Switchblade comb, which is not Dawn of the Dead related, except for that scene with Savini. And, you know, it's interesting because I ended up, the only time I stopped really, well, there's been 2 times I stopped. The first time I stopped was when I had a stroke, and Daz, Spooky Daz, or Daz Sargent from the UK, had sent me a message going like, hey, when's the next Dawn of the Dead Thursday coming? And at that point I was in recovery, and I was like in like a kind of, I was at a friend's house and hadn't like still training in a walker to walk again. And I had some stuff banked already. And I said, oh, well, you know, it's coming back. I've got some banked. And so then I started again, and then kept going. And so I took a break recently, mainly because I didn't have any new stuff that I bought. And so I've been buying stuff again, not much, but, you know, just little things here and there, like 45 of Zombie and Suspiria by Goblin, and this Ashbury Jukes record that's going to be the next one, like the next unboxing. And so I'm still, of course, looking for stuff all the time. I'll probably do an unboxing of the Pillow Pal when I buy that. That'll give me my excuse to buy it.
The record you just mentioned, what is the what is the significance of that again?
I've got it right here. You probably can't see it. So I forget how I saw it. It might have been on one of the Dawn of the Dead pages, but it's the song When You Dance, which is co-written by Springsteen, of all people, is in Dawn of the Dead. It's in the scene when Steven and Roger are in the gun shop and the tribal sounding stuff, which I always thought was Goblin. It's like, wow, Goblin can do all this stuff, you know, because the song Zombie has tribal stuff in it. And so it made sense. It's like, okay. And so then it's a weird thing. It's like, how did George find that track and then just decide to use a little piece of the intro for it? And like where he cuts is actually where the actual song would begin, like, because it's got this weird tribal intro.
Interesting.
And so, of course, I was like, oh, I need that for my Dawn vinyl collection. And it was cheap on eBay. When I found it, it was like $3 plus shipping.
Wow. Good score. So you, and that's not every Thursday that you do one of these videos, but it's always on a Thursday when it happens.
Always on Thursday. And so, yeah, the last couple have been sporadic. I've already got the next one in the can. And I think to expand on it, I'm going to start doing ones more like specialized. Like I've had the thought, like one of the Dawn of the Dead, early Dawn of the Dead Thursdays, I took a picture of like all of my Japanese stuff all in one thing. And I think I'm going to do like specific episodes now focusing on just specific parts of my collection instead of unboxings.
Yeah, no, keep it going, because there's a lot of stuff out there for Dawn that I'm sure I've never seen, Eric's never seen, as well as others. So keep Dawn of the Dead Thursday going, man. It's always fun to pick up the phone and see it and watch the video and, you know, just have a little fun with it, because I mean that's how we started. Yeah, it is. And the episode 50 was kind of where starting to promote the screening. And so 50 changed. And so now in the more recent ones, I've changed back to the original format because I'd switched my video editors and got more tech savvy with my video editing. And so from 50 to maybe 54, they're different, you know, new theme music, new titles, much more effects, a lot more editing put into it, where they used to be just set up a camera. Or not even set up a camera. You'll see on some of them, or on some of them, it's just me filming with one hand, trying to
cut open something with a knife.
Mm-hmm. And these are, to those that haven't seen these are very digestible. They're 2.5 minutes.
They're
tops.
pretty quick.
Yeah. These are not 45-minute examinations.
Right. Right.
Get in, get out, get your Dawn of the Dead bite for the day.
Yep.
Yeah. So no, it's good stuff, Jason. Glad to see you're back on the air with those, and it's always a welcome sight when I see that in my Facebook feed. Mm-hmm. But and you have what is the name of your channel?
Music and Monsters.
Music
on
and Monsters.
YouTube. Yeah. That's and right. I started in January of this year. I started a podcast called Music and Monsters, where I'm just interviewing friends, mostly artists and creative people like musicians. I have a friend that's a sculptor that's on there. I have a couple in the can right now that are about to come out. One of them is with my friend Albert, where we just geek out about books. And they're right now on YouTube only. And I was waiting until I got 10 in the can before I just start publishing them everywhere. So there's kind of a backlog or catalog of them.
What was the name of your new podcast?
It's Music and Monsters, the same as my channel.
Oh, it's the same name. Okay,
mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right. And where can we find that? It's on YouTube now?
YouTube.com/Music and Monsters.
Perfect.
And my website is the same name. So Music and Monsters, if you go to musicandmonsters.com, there are links to the YouTube channel. There's links to my Etsy shop. There's links to my Big Cartel shop, where I've got prints, original artwork, all that stuff.
Awesome. All right. Well, we, Jace, we're going to get into, I think, Dawn of the Dead minute number 4 mm-hmm. here. And we're hoping you would stick around and go through it with us, maybe provide some insight. It looks like Matt's just provided the link for everybody for the music and YouTube Music and Monsters page. So definitely give that a subscribe. It's a great, I love seeing that on Thursday. So keep those coming.
Yeah, there'll definitely be more.
Good.
So we're going to try a little something new here. We're going to get into, well, it's not so much new. We've done a few of these before, but we're going to try and get some screen captures going along with the Dawn of the Dead minute. We'll see how it works out. It's dealing with new technology here, people. But jumping into, hang on, let me pull it up. Oh, great.
Yeah, we figured Dawn of the Dead minute is more of a visual aspect, and we can share what we're talking about. I mean, I'm sure everybody that has listened to us, watched us, visited us has seen Dawn of the Dead enough times that we could all recite the film and play it in our head. But it's always nice to see what we're talking about. So that's why we decided to do this way, and see what comes up.
Exactly. So, with Dawn of the Dead minute 4, we're starting off at the 3 minute and 1 second mark. So we'll be going 301 through 400. And okay, is this correct? I'm sorry. I apologize. We're live here. This can't be right.
Well, the opening shot is Fran saying we're blowing it ourselves.
Right. Yeah, let's go ahead and get into it, and I'll find the right shot. I apologize. Yeah. So she says, we're blowing it ourselves, exits the screen to her left, and that's when we get a shot down a hallway. We see the pasty blonde security guard leaning against the wall, and a balding middle-aged man, who we later come to know as Givens, enters the hallway. Shoots a look at the guard, makes a beeline for the control room, blazing past the guard, and I'm pretty sure it's Cliff Forrest. He kind of whisks by. Looks like Cliff Forrest anyway, who's moving the opposite direction. And you want to go ahead, Matt?
I was going to say something. Yeah. It's when go back and watch this in 1 minute bites, you start to pick up on stuff. And I was thinking about it when Fran says we're blowing it ourselves, she's leaving the control room. But earlier in the scene, she walks out onto that stairway next to the control room that Givens is going into. And in that split, they should have passed each other in the hallway, but she's down on the floor already. So again, it's one of those things like I never thought of until I went back and rewatched it, where she technically would have passed him in the hallway because Cliff Forrest was in that control room somewhere, somewhere behind where Givens is coming. So they would have passed each other, but it looks like she's been down on the floor the whole time, which obviously sets up the next scene for the exchange. But one of those things that I picked up on, again, 40 years of watching the movie, you learn something new, which is the fun part of the Dawn of the Dead Minute.
Yeah, I hadn't quite put that together. That's a good catch, man.
There's a few in this scene that I'll jump in on.
Okay, so obviously Givens, he's pissed. He's wants to know why the supers, or what does he say? Did we cover his dialogue? He says, "What the hell's going on? Who killed those supers?"
Yeah, and he when he's talking, he's brushing there. He goes, "Nobody gave the order to do that." So obviously he is quite pissed, and we were talking in some of the earlier minutes about the hierarchy of WGON, and it's like, so Gibbons must be at Fran's level or just slightly above her in a different department, because it looks like either she doesn't care about him or she doesn't report to him or vice versa. So it's interesting to see that he's sort of pissed, but he might have been the director of the news broadcast, because he seems like he's calling the shots.
And here's a funny thought, and I'll pass it to Jace. Maybe you can shed some light. What on earth was Givens doing before that? Like, was he just sitting in his office with his feet up or something?
And it's like the station is already in chaos. And so suddenly he sees that the crawl is gone, and he's freaking out.
Exactly. Yeah, he must have been posted up in front of a monitor somewhere doing God knows what. But yeah, he doesn't show up until the supers are not going across the screen any longer. People might tune out. So let's see, where does that put us? All right. We get as he brushes past Cliff, we get cut to a shot of the control room. Dick, the guy that we know as Dick from earlier, is pressing some buttons. The possibly Latino guy is looking down at the console. Blonde woman sitting on the counter reading a report, and Liz Augenstein is staring at Crawford and Berman on the monitor. I'm sorry, Berman and Foster. And she's sitting on the desk on the far end of the room. I actually had to get out the full frame version to find the time. It says 5:40 on this version. 5:40, I guess, in the afternoon. I wish we could remember the time from earlier. I want to say it was 4 something.
Yeah, I think when I was looking at those notes, it was when we saw 5:40, I was like, and then when they're taking off from the docks, it says 6:00. So right. It's like, did they go? So if we're doing 5:40 at night, that was a long 13 hours of them getting stuff together, where they made it kind of seem like they're getting out of here. And again, I don't think the time thing was on George's mind, but it is just kind of funny when you go back and watch it again. When you watch the film at a minute at a time, you start to pick up on that. So I'm like, well, did they do that all in 20 minutes, or has this been like 12 hours later that they finally are now getting out of there, which is probably more plausible.
Yeah, unfortunately, and you hear it a lot in when people talk about some of the goofs on some of the, especially in the older movies, people just had the people making the movies, they just had the thought that no one would ever see it. I don't think that, home video was even crossing their minds during that era. They didn't think there was going to be people like us watching it over and over and over and finding it.
And it was hard to pause the movie and pause it again. You hit pause, you hit play, you hit pause, you missed almost a second and a half. So it's not like now where we can watch it at a 10th speed and catch the guy in the background whiffing on a punch and the guy flies back. Like you said, this movie was never intended to be watched this way, but we're doing it anyway. But yeah, like you said, Givens enters and he just charges into the room. He's like, I didn't give the order to do that. And he jumps right in between who is it, Dick and the other gentleman, and he gets on the monitor and he goes, "Who told you?" Yeah, it's Gary or Garrett. It's hard.
It said Garrett on the subtitles, but it sounds like Gary.
Yeah. So I don't know who he's talking to on the floor, but he shouts out on the microphone out in the middle of the studio, "Who told you to kill those supers?" And we look down and we see Fran standing next to one of the cameras, and she's handed a headset with a camera woman wearing a scarf. And the notes say she looks fresh out of JCPenney's catalog, and we're going to reference that a few times because it's like JCPenney's clothed everybody. But you can see she's given her the headset, and Fran just goes, I killed him. They're out of date. And then we cut back to Liz Augenstein. She's like, do you know you're on the air? And it just, you could tell that it's part of that chaos that we've been establishing in the first 3 minutes of the movie, is that everything is going down. And now everybody is really starting to pull in their own directions. People like Gibbons want to keep this place on the air. Most of the people are there just working because there's not much else they can be doing, and hasn't reached that proportion where they're trying to get out of the cities yet. It still seems it's one of those kind of like in today's political climates, it's probably not that big of a deal, but it's causing enough chaos that everyone's kind of just focusing on their own job. But they really don't want to be there. They've probably been on the air for a couple of days now. They can't leave, and they're just kind of going through the motions, but they're starting to get to that point where everyone's just, all right, we're leaving.
Hey, Jace, I wanted to get your opinion of this just scene in general, since you haven't had the benefit of covering the previous minutes. What, as far as like just an odd choice for an opening, how does this first scene hit you, and what's your take on it?
It's to me, it's super intense because it's showing the aftermath of what came in night, and that everything is falling apart, and that even the media itself is battling with each other, and it's just chaos. And the Goblin score is ominous, and that particular piece with the layered effects that George put in is creepy, suitably so. It's like it's hit the fan for sure.
And that pulsing dum dum.
Yeah.
It's just it's there just enough to kind of be noticeable, but it really sets the tone. And it's again what we were talking about, the soundtrack at the beginning. The soundtrack is very different at the beginning of the film. It is more ominous, it is more foreboding, and this just dum 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 dum. I mean, it plays through the whole scene for 5 minutes. While all this chaos is happening. It could have been a completely different feeling if there was a lot of in-your-face music, but the subtlety that George added, I think, was more effective than anything else.
I think what always tripped me out about the scene is it starts off, it's an odd place or setting to start off the beginning of a horror film, but it's also, when I saw it when I was younger, I remember thinking, is there literally like zombies on the other side of these walls? You know what I mean? Like, are they surrounding this? What's going on? I could never, and I still to this day, I don't have a good picture of what's right outside that door.
I don't know if it was right outside the door. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't think it had reached the studio yet because there's still a lot of people there. So they were in a part of the city where it may not have been affected. They could have been downtown where it's starting to encroach. And they're still centralized, which I would assume most TV studios are going to be in the heart of the city. So it's probably coming within a day or so, but it hasn't reached there yet, because if they were outside the door, I don't think they would have been acting the way they are. Yeah, it seems like people were coming and going more freely because it's out in the suburbs, it's on the edges, it's in certain parts of the city, but not to where WGON was.
But also they had, they've got security there that stops Steven when he comes in. He's got to show his ID. So it's like they've got people posted, but he's not posted up like he's going to start blasting.
Yeah,
or who knows?
Yeah, I don't want to say a rent-a-cop, but I mean he was security for the station. But I mean, I doubt he's carrying. He's just there to stop people getting in that shouldn't be in.
And I'm not sure if it's in this minute, but we'll come to know him as the anorexic Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
It's like because you do this, you examine shot by shot, you start to notice like that guy looks like a skinny Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
All right.
That's funny.
Let's see. Oh, okay. So this is another good part. When I first saw the film, this is one of the parts that stood out to me. But you cut to a medium shot of Foster and Berman reacting to Givens. Berman kind of makes a a stink face, and he says on, kind of on the camera, I'm sorry, on the mic, "What the hell's going on?" Covers the mic, and then another shot. We see the studio floor from behind. There's a bearded cameraman pleading with the crew. I think he's the guy that's like, it's the same bearded guy who gives the camera to Fran later on when he says, "You take it."
Yeah.
He's pleading with the crew. To his left, there's a gentleman wearing a white long sleeve tribal patterned shirt with bell bottom jeans. We see him a couple times. There's a woman sitting in a folding chair, clenching at her hair for dramatic touch. We hear Givens begin to respond to Fran over the studio's PA system. The unmanned camera to the right, you can actually see that the camera's on. It's hard to tell what it's filming, but you can see there's an image, kind of a ghosted image in the viewfinder. Givens says, "I want those supers on the air all the time. Without those rescue stations on every screen, every minute, people won't watch us. They'll tune out." And I think we talked about this a previous minute, and I'll pass it to the floor. It's just kind of bizarre. It seems like, I forget the kid's name, Dan maybe, was entering the new supers. Maybe they're not up yet, but they'll be up in a matter of seconds. I mean, it seems they're arguing over whether bad supers will be on the air during, for the minute that it takes to update them.
Well, Givens doesn't care. He's married to the job. I mean, he's there. He wants to be the TV studio that people are tuning into in Philadelphia. And if people are tuning in, we're all that age where when schools closed when we were little, you had to watch TV in the morning with the news, and they scrolled across the top of the screen. Yeah. And guess what? You got your news at that time, and that's how people got it. So if you turn them off, if your school closings when you were little weren't on the screen, guess what? You flipped over to the next station to find out if they had it on there as well. So Givens is he knows that this shit is going down out there, but he doesn't care as long as he can cover it. And it's kind of funny is Dan, The Living Dead, George's book, Dan Krause, there's a section about a media newsroom during the initial outbreak. And it is very reminiscent of, it's not shot for shot, it's not character for character, but it is giving me similar vibes that there's people still trying to stay on the air. And it's very interesting to see it done in a 2019, 2020 way versus, back in the 70s. But yeah, no, I think, and again, I don't know the technology. Maybe you had to take the old supers off to put the new ones on.
I think so. I mean, maybe they could have put up a new supers coming shortly, but then, you're right. People still would have changed stations, and it just, it's just the hypocrisy of it all. It's like ratings, but everybody's going to die. So soon ratings aren't going to matter, but they matter now. I don't know. It's crazy.
Plus, it's so different. For late 70s, there were basically 3 to 5 stations everywhere. So if you don't have something, you're done. So in that respect, I understand why he's freaking out. But he's still, Fran is right. It's like the old information is going to kill people.
Yeah, she's thinking more of the responsibility of the TV studio for the community, for the people that are watching. And Givens is like, I don't care. I need to have something on the air so people will tune in. He doesn't care if it's accurate or not. Yeah. And that's not completely obvious to a lot of people, but if you stop and think about it, like he doesn't care if they're old or not. He just needs people to be tuning in. Well, people are only going to be tuning in from home. I doubt there's rescue station of one TV. So I mean, if he's worried about ratings, he's getting one view on the Nielsen or whatever it is. He doesn't have a whole neighborhood tuning in. So, but he just wants people to watch and advertising dollars and all that. But I doubt they're advertising at this point. They probably cut all commercials out.
Yeah, that too. I mean, there's not like they're cutting for commercial break.
Yeah. And that'd be just like it is today.
You just got to build that trust with the community, so they'll keep coming back.
You want people to want to tune in, regardless of what's happening. But in the next shot, after we cut back to Berman and Foster, we see a couple of technicians kind of sneak in, and they're adjusting the microphones, like a NASCAR crew. Except they're not on commercial break; they're doing this right on camera. And we see an older gentleman come up, and he pretty much gives some copies to Mr. Berman, like, here's some updated information. Because they're not in front of a teleprompter. These guys are going at it like this. They're not looking at a teleprompter and reading anything. And we cut back to Fran staring intently at Gibbons' direction, and it's more of a closer shot. And we see the other WGON associate's arm in the way. But then we cut back for a shot of Gibbons' perspective from Fran's perspective to Gibbons looking up, and Dick and the other gentleman are busy working hard, but the blonde lady is left telling Gibbons that he's still on the air. Again, he doesn't care. He's all about his supers and getting the information out there and make sure people are watching. He doesn't care what it sounds like, but he's being disruptive to the whole process, which will just eventually end up breaking down. And we'll see as we go through the minute that it is.
But she's literally the way, if you look at, because you can't hear what she's saying, but she's talking to him like he's the biggest, and he is the biggest idiot on earth at the moment. But the way she's just like, dude, no, you're on the air, you know. It's hilarious. It's not not something you might not pick that up on your first couple viewings, the way she's talking to him.
Yeah. And then we cut back to Fran, who says, "You're willing to murder people by sending them out to stations that have been closed down? I want that list up on the screen every minute that we're on the air." So again, this back and forth, they're just getting into it, being oblivious to the bigger problem. This is at the part, not just in the movie, but in society, that it's starting to break down. People are they can't continue to do things the way that they've been doing. And it's the slow progression or very quick progression that things are about to change, and that these TV studios, which we'll see in the, later part of the movie, a couple of days, weeks, they're all off the air. People are leaving their posts. There's no automation. And it's starting here. We're seeing that. And Fran's like, she's kind of on autopilot too. I think we've kind of mentioned that before. Like, she's there, she's doing her job, but she doesn't have a plan. I'm sure she wants to get out, but she doesn't know how to. So she might also be married to her job, where she's gonna do it till the bitter end when she knows she can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jace.
I was just going to say it's chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And it plays out later when we see later broadcasts that it's still chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because like the chaos in the studio at WGON informs the chaos we see later, where it just like zombie deniers, that people don't want to hear. They even say people don't want to hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, they act like, or it's just it's kind of like what's going on today, the rejection of science.
Yeah,
they're trying to give cold, like, here, if
fake news.
Right.
Yeah.
If we do this, and this, we'll be okay. But people are like, I don't want to do that. That's doesn't jive with my personal beliefs.
Or it's inconvenient for me.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Wow. Come on. George has just had it going on.
Oh yeah.
I mean, tell me about it. Jeez.
I mean, we think it's a problem now. It's been a problem then. If George was able to pick up on it, it's been a reoccurring theme for the last 40 or 50 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
So as Gibbons is shouting back to on the air to Fran, we can see Dick at the control at the console. He's angrily react to his comments. We cut to that angle from before where they entered the doorway to the control room. Most of the room's already cleared out, but we can see Dick rise up and depart his post. And as he's leaving, he says, "Does anybody need a ride?" Gibbons is totally puzzled by this, does not understand why they would leave. He yells after them, "What the hell are you doing? Get back here on this console." The blonde lady that was talking to him like a child appears to kind of hop into Dick's place on the board. And looks like the other fellow might have stayed in place at his post. And then we cut back. There's a series of, I'll try to make it as cohesive as possible. It kind of cuts back and forth to Berman and back to the people that he's running after to stay on the console. But as all this is going on, Berman stands up and yells, "What is this, a news show or a football game? Get that idiot off the air!" And at the end of the shot, another guy runs up to help with Foster's mic, kind of like NASCAR style. And it looks like the guy that adjusts the mic is the guy who later says to Fran, "Our responsibility is finished." Another bearded gent in a brown sweater darts across the background. But yeah, it was that where the whole "get that fucking idiot off the air." I mean, that was like, the breaking point. I no longer care that we're on the air. I no longer care that this is my boss. I don't care about ratings. Everything's out the window. I just remember that moment standing out to me in particular. It's just, I don't know. What do you guys think about that particular breakdown?
Yeah, well, when you're dropping F-bomb on live TV, it's real.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching news in the 80s as a kid. My dad always had the 6 o'clock news on, and it was like Peter Jennings, Dan Rather, those guys, and they were always so composed and they were so professional. And, to look back and think, wow, wonder what would happen like that today. And we've kind of seen that a little bit in the news now where a lot of, more of the talking head segments, they tend to get a little bit more animated and less newscastery and more opinionated. It's not far-fetched that we won't see that come in at some point. I think we're at that tipping point where someone's just going to go off.
Yeah.
So we're kind of ready for it. We know it's probably in people's nature. It's probably hard for them to stay composed.
I've seen recent interviews with Anderson Cooper where he's calling out people and he's just saying that's bullshit. It's like, this is like Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah,
it's cable, so he can say what he wants to say.
It's one of those things where I'm like, well, as long as you stay professional, you can speak the truth, and you got to hold people accountable. And if you give people who are spinning and who are, putting out bad information or not giving you the facts that you need on a news show, you have to call them out on it. And sometimes you have to wake them up, and that's when it can start breaking down, and that's where the emotions get into it, because people want to be right. They want their opinion to be heard because they're on TV, so their opinion has to matter. And at the end of the day, it's like you're not helping at all. It's just propaganda at that point. And unless the news used to be about the news. This is what happened. This is why it happened. Well, now this is, this person didn't really say that, and we're not going to go off on that tangent, but yeah, it's very shadowing 40 some years, prior that, this is kind of the world we're living in now, guys, because this is how probably most newscasts are.
To think CNN wasn't even a thing. 24-hour news was not a thing then. And we pretty much just got a sneak peek in 1978, we'll get back into the. We got a couple of credits to announce here. We'll just say we'll announce these all at once. These are we have casting John Amplas, who we all know who played Martin from the film Martin, and then also casting assistants Ellen Hopkins and Michael Lies. Michael is the brother of Lenny, and Michael is also in this scene. We've mentioned him a couple times. I don't know much about Ellen Hopkins, though, but let's talk about John Amplas for a minute.
Yeah, I don't, and correct. I mean, not even correct me if I'm wrong, but how did he get brought in to do casting? Had he done that before?
You know what I think, and I believe George and to an extent probably Richard. I believe they did the auditioning. I mean, I've heard a few interviews talking about where they did the auditioning for the main four, and maybe some of the other principals. I'm not sure.
Yeah, John probably could have been bringing people in from Carnegie Mellon, Duquesne Theater. So yeah, he probably cast a lot of the secondary characters that weren't just friends that were showing up. So yeah, I mean, he could have. We'll have to ask him about that sometime.
I believe a lot of it, and with the other two as well, I believe a lot of it was zombies. Zombie hoarding, or hoarding, whatever.
Zombie caster.
But yeah, I would like to know more about that. And then there was just about the whole casting process in general. You don't hear a lot about that with Dawn.
No, just from the main four.
And we cut to Fran. She's handing the headset back to the mysterious camera woman. We can hear Berman yell in the background, "Huh? This is supposed to be a doggone news television show." But the way he says, "Huh," he's like, "Come at me, bro."
Yeah.
It's like, "Huh." Then we had unit managers Jay Stover's credit, who played the featured gun zombie. Is that what we call him?
Yeah, rifle zombie or whatever we want to.
Rifle zombie.
Yeah.
Top
And I
gun
looked up,
zombie.
and I tried to look up what a unit manager was, and everything was calling it a unit production manager, which was kind of like the head of the day-to-day stuff.
Okay.
And but I couldn't figure out. Again, it's one of those when you watch the movie, it's like, okay, Jay Stover was a unit manager. Well, what the hell did he do? Because again, everything I've seen has been more of they're kind of running the day-to-day stuff, which doesn't sound right because I don't.
Yeah, because there's Zilla Clinton would certainly play a big role in that, as well as Christine, I imagine, and what else am I thinking about? That would have done that kind of work. Diane, what is her name? She'd ran the clapper. We see her in a minute. Diane, or no, Donna Siegel. Sorry.
Siegel.
Yeah, so I would think they. Yeah, no, that's a good point, Matt. I am curious what the unit manager's role.
Yeah,
We'll have to talk to Tom about that.
We'll talk to a friend of the show, Tom Dubinsky, and we'll bring that back on the next minute.
Before we move on, though, I do want to say, and you know this very well, Matt, in the Argento cut commentary with the main cast, Scotty Reiniger, he accuses Jay Stover of stealing his brother-in-law's car.
Yeah, if you guys have never listened to the cast commentary for the Argento cut on the box set, Scotty just puts Jay Stover on blast. He goes, "Who stole? I think he stole my brother-in-law's car and never brought it back, or he borrowed it and never brought it back." And it's
wow.
I always have forgotten in the last couple of years that I've seen Scotty to ask him about that, just to find out what happened and why he just decided to put that out there, because it just comes out of nowhere, and I'm like, okay, so what happened to the car? Did he wreck it, or did someone else steal it? Like, how did he never go back and get this car? So
it's a different time.
Yeah. So it's just one of those like random stories. It's like it just kind of flies under the radar, but I listen to that cast commentary a lot, so it's I always think about it, and I always laugh because I'm like, all right, next time I see Scott, I have to ask him about it.
And then we get business manager Vince Cervinsky's credit, who most would know him from the end of Night of the Living Dead.
Yep.
And he's, a longtime Romero associate back to the Image 10, latent Image days, and on through, I guess, on through Day of the Dead at least.
Mm-hmm.
We cut to a hallway shot of Givens. This was those series of shots where we kind of go back and forth between Givens and the people that he's chasing after, but he leaps out of the control room and says, "Officer, stop those men." Then we cut to those men walking out, and Dick is carrying a large 3-ring binder, walking past a stack of boxes and looks like binders as well, with Givens yelling, "Lucas, get back here on the console," which is strange because we've already identified this guy as Dick, so perhaps his name is Dick Lucas. We'll just go with that.
Yeah, I never picked up on that until I watched it this time.
Unless somehow that's the woman's name. It could be a female name, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, we cut back. We see them walking out the door. Cut back to Givens. He says, "Damn," goes back into the control room. And then we see cut back to the security guard, shakes his head, grabs his jacket, hauls ass. And, I think, I don't know, for some reason that those few little motions that an otherwise incidental character, but he just stands out to me as, I don't know, it sets the mood, sets the tone, like the cop just saying "fuck it."
Well, it's all those little parts, all the people in this. It's starting to add up. We're starting to see more and more people leave, and this guy was ready to go probably for the longest time, and then finally seeing those guys walk out of the control room, he's like, "All right, grab my jacket, I'm out of here."
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much where everybody is, I think, at this point, because I'm sure if the story would have progressed and the movie not cut to the next scene, I'm sure within an hour or two, most of that place would have been emptied. It seems like this was probably the last night that they were probably going to be on the air, because it sounds like it's getting that bad. And everyone again is just kind of don't know what else to do. The problem hasn't hit home yet, but they don't have anywhere else to go, so they're just working. Let's see here, and then cut back to him walking around, and he says, "Damn." We cut back to the guard shaking his head. Okay, we did that. Next, we see Gibbons from below, and he's scrambling. He doesn't know how to run the switchboard. So he's, get somebody in here who can run this thing. And then we cut to a shot of Foster and Berman, and Foster's reaching across the desk in front of Berman for a glass of water, and Berman yells, "Get that fucking idiot off the air!" And that's when we hear the Goblin soundtrack starting to kick in more and more. The adrenaline is rising, the anxiety is rising. We're getting to that tipping point. And then we see a wide shot of Gibbons through the control room window, and we see someone rushing down the stairs from inside the studio. So probably the last person that was up that way has finally run out. It could be Christine Romero, but she isn't wearing the Sarah Connor South American pullover that we had seen. and the blonde lady quickly getting her headset from next to Gibbons says, "Get somebody in here, triple pay." You know, like pay is going to matter at this point. Like if they're leaving now, triple pay ain't doing anything for these people. But again, it shows how much he is a company man, and it shows how much he is going to keep this thing going, because I think in his mind, if they stay on the air during all of this, they'll come out the news show that people want to watch. And like you said, Jace, you know, we grew up in an era, and Eric too, you know, there was 3 main TV stations, maybe 4, and you know, ABC, CBS, and NBC. Those were your news channels. And you know, my family, we were an ABC household. We didn't watch NBC or CBS news. I'd go to my grandmother's house. She'd be watching NBC. My other grandmother was watching CBS.
Who was ABC? Is that Peter Jennings?
Peter Jennings.
Yeah.
Yep. We were a Peter Jennings household. And every once in a while, we would watch NBC.
Yeah, you got to give a little Brokaw every now and then.
Yeah, we would give Brokaw, but we didn't do too much Dan Rather. Nothing against him, but my dad was an ABC kind of guy. So that's what we got to. And then we cut to a medium shot behind the studio crew filming Foster and Berman, and the older fellow who gave Berman the papers is wearing green plaid pants. Man, I love the style. Love it. And he walks towards the camera, and he removes his headset, and he walks away like he's probably done. He's done his last duty probably, and he looks like he's at that age that he's not dealing with it.
Yeah, and when I first noticed he looked troubled, and I kind of had to back it up and figure out that it was the guy that had handed the papers to Berman. So chances are he looks troubled because of the content of those papers. Just something that you wouldn't pick up without examining like this. But he probably read that a majority of what Foster was saying was legit, and it was heavily disturbing.
Yeah, he's probably getting an update from morgues or hospitals that this is it is serious, because they probably still have people out in the field, but they can't get the film back to the studio, so they're probably calling it in. You know, because everything was on film. They didn't have live remotes. So
well, I guess it's I guess it's what he's doing. Maybe it's some early form of telefax or something. You remember those? You know, like where you had to put the damn phone into the.
Yeah, and that's probably what he's doing, or he's manning a switchboard that, hey, it's so and so from this hospital, and they've been overrun. It would always be neat to see what Philly was like during the Dawn of the Dead portion of to see what Philly is like during the era, the world. Yeah. Like George is creating. It'd be neat to see a news reporter out there trying to get through to the studio and saying like, hey, they're overrun. They're coming for us.
Oh, you mean like in the film, like a remote?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, just to break that. Yeah, because it's so isolated. It's just like I'd have no picture outside of this room, and this scene is 6-7 minutes. Yeah. So I where's the zombies? I mean, you know what I mean. I don't gotta have them.
But that's one of the great things that we love about it, is that it's isolated. We don't know what's going on. We're only getting limited information. It's kind of like the movie Pontypool. That takes place in the radio, and I absolutely love that film because we don't know what's going on. But there's a part of me that goes, God, I would love to see the news stories that are being called in. I'd love to see them, but I'm glad I don't, because I think it works for that film, and I think the scene works because it's almost claustrophobic. You're in one setting, and you don't know. There's no windows. You don't know what's going on outside, and neither do these people.
Here's the brilliant perspective. and it's providing the perspective for all the people in there. They can only act like that because they're not looking outside those walls. They can only react that way to Foster's words because they don't know really what's actually happening. They haven't experienced it themselves yet. They've been sleeping and covering the station in shifts. They probably haven't left in a few days.
Well, and they didn't have a cell phone where they could be checking Twitter during their news broadcast. So they're only getting the news from one source. They can't switch the channel. They're at work. So you're getting one person's perspective, and whether or not it's right or wrong, it's what the information they have to go off of. And I think people are saying, well, if this is this bad between these two people, it's probably bad out there and I need to go home.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right, looks like we getting towards the end of the minute here. We cut back to Gibbons yelling, "We're staying on the air." It looks like a gentleman in a fat apple cap makes his way down those stairs right in front of his window. And at this point, we can see that the clock is now 7:10, so a couple hours have passed in real time.
Which shows the amount of shots that George, they talk about George setting up the number of shots per day. Rubenstein talks about that in his commentary is how quickly George could get a shot set up, shot, and move on to the next. Mm-hmm. So within an hour and a half, he shot 45 seconds of film, which is, which can be a lot.
That is a lot.
A lot of times, you used to hear, and it probably still is relevant, you might only get 2 or 3 minutes of shooting done per day.
Hollywood.
Yeah. So, I mean, for George to do 45 seconds of filming in an hour and a half, he's moving quick. And it probably doesn't hurt that he's in a TV studio already set up for production. So he probably only had to get minimalist equipment moved in and around and just getting everybody coordinated. But I mean, we're covering how many cuts in 45 to 50 seconds?
I was just about you just made me think of that because we've got 2 more minutes before we get out of this scene. And so we're talking roughly a 7-minute scene of, I don't know, let's just safe estimate, 75 shots in 2 days. Mm-hmm. 2 days of production.
2 days. He covered 7 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
And that is, and that's the way George always shot. That's the way we heard, that I even got to see on my couple of days for survival and land. There was a lot done. He knows how to move people quick, but then it goes to show is it doesn't always have to look a certain way. You don't have to bounce this light off of this pillar to get this reflection, or you don't have to try to get a weird camera angle. He does a lot in camera right away, so he doesn't have to worry about it. And yeah, that's going back and doing this Dawn Minute when we're doing the first, like you said, 7 minutes inside the TV studio. There's a lot more there that I've never really thought about, and it's just the number of cuts. They're like boom, 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 and yeah, it really shows that an hour and a half has passed, and we're still within 1 minute of actual filming.
And they shot Richard Francis' scene in this studio, so that was probably a part of those 2 days. They got that in too, all of those scenes.
Yeah, and that was probably shot that was probably shot either before everybody got there or everybody left. Mm-hmm. And he set the camera, probably had cross cameras. Probably only took him half a day to shoot that. So we're thinking in a day and a half to probably shoot that.
We see another medium shot of the crew again. We see the tribal print jacket guy, bearded guy as well, and the guy with the guy who does the bunny ears in a minute. We can see him too. He's waving his hand. The bunny ears guy is waving his arm about very demonstratively, yelling, "Turn it off, shut it off, like fuck it all, to hell with this shit." And then tribal print guy, of course, drops his clipboard in disgust as he exits the shot. We then, as he walks by, we get a sneak peek of Josie Caruso and Vincent Bach, and we'll see them several times during the next couple of minutes. And there's also a guy in this shot with a notebook holding it's either a notebook or a sign that says 15 on it in very large digits. Like maybe he holds that up and lets them know it's 15 seconds till break or something.
That's probably what it was. So they knew they were going to be cutting. Cause again, not something I had seen really before watching this in greater detail. But yeah, he was probably there to let him know, okay, 15 seconds to air or 15 seconds to commercial break.
Mm-hmm.
What does it matter at this point? It doesn't sound like they're really going to commercial breaks, but maybe they were going to cut. I don't know. I don't know what advertisers would be buying ad time during a zombie apocalypse, but who knows?
Mm-hmm. Firearms, perhaps.
Firearms Unlimited.
But that concludes. That would be minute number 4. So our exhaustive coverage of the theatrical cut continues. So what do you think about? What's your take on that minute, Jace? What's your impressions?
It is a trip to go through like with a fine tooth comb each minute. I'm coming in at 4, and so now it's got me thinking about the first 3, and so I'm gonna have to do my own and like kind of, but it's masterful. And going into it's funny. I've got this like
what was that?
This little zombie head.
Oh, cool.
Just like what you've talked about, George's editing on this. Have you done the thing where you count how many seconds it is on his edits, especially in that scene? Like just boom, boom, boom. And so I wonder, it's like, I don't think he storyboarded any of it. It's just that he had something in his head that he knew he needed this, and he needed this, and he needed this. And then he had the talent to just be in there on those old school machines and just pop, pop, pop.
Yeah, he always struck me as someone who's editing the movie as he's shooting it. Like he already knows, he knew the shots he wanted to get before he got them. And I think he knew deep down, this is exactly what I want to do. As much as he let people improvise and come up with stuff, this is probably more of a tighter ship at the beginning of the film, or what is the beginning of the film, because they shot this over the Christmas break. But I mean, at this point, George knew what he needed, and kind of he was there. He was ready to go. I mean, it was like boom, boom, boom. And it's funny. I should go back and look and see how many cuts are in that 1 60-second segment, because they're going to be quick, and I'm sure they're going to average probably a cut every minute, a second and a half.
Probably. We haven't gone too far since we've only gone 4 minutes. I'm actually going to go back and time these with each bullet point, and then do that going forth too, just to give the length of the shot, because that information may as well be there going forth. That's interesting. Yeah, let's start counting these things.
Yeah, because it'll be interesting, and that was the thing too. And Jace, when Eric and I have talked about it, it's like this is very dense at the beginning of the film. As we get into the movie and as they get into the mall, there's not going to be a lot happening in certain scenes, but there'll still be something to see. I think until we get out of the tenement, which it seems like it's going to be a while, and even to the police talks, like I said, once we get there's a lot here. Every minute is packed in with so much. Even like in my head as I'm talking now, I'm like, well, if we talk about that minute, there's not going to be, and I'm like, oh no, we'll still be looking at backgrounds of the mall and clothing choices, or just, like when they're, walking through different stores, we're going to be picking stuff out, but it's going to give us a better way to examine what George was maybe going for and things that he never really talked about in interviews. But, again, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about his editorial choices, and it's going to be interesting to see what we discover in the next few minutes. If do the number of shots diminish, or do they get longer? It's going to be interesting to see if, he changed his style a little bit depending on where he was shooting at, not just physically, but also in terms of the story. And we know it'll ramp back up again at the end of the film when the motorcycle raiders come in, because there's a lot happening there too.
Yeah. When I just rewatched the film, what struck me, it sounds really weird, but the scene when Roger gets attacked in Penny's, and you see the struggle, and Peter with the gun trying to figure out how he could get a clear shot. And it was the first time watching it going like, all of Ken's shots, his reaction shots, that's one long take. And he's just edited it down, and it's genius.
Yeah, I think he was, and just from watching Document of the Dead and all this stuff, he didn't move the camera too much while filming. You know, it was on a tripod, and there's obviously the handheld stuff that Gornick and stuff did, but it was he set the camera down, he got this and he moved it and got this over here, then he shot it over here, and then just spliced them together. And I think that's why he was so able to get all of those shots, because he's not doing these big, you know, gimbal jib shots. You know, he wasn't on a dolly track all the time, but if it was very simple. It was just this way or this way. And it again, he knew what he was going for. You know, I don't joke, but I talked to Mike Piniella, one of the co-producers of the Blair Witch, and he always said, you know, their film was discovered in the edit. You know, how, you know, they edited the film and discovered they had the film, but they didn't know they had it until they started editing it. George, I think he knew exactly what he needed to get by the time he was editing, because I even think he said to Roy Frumkus in Document of the Dead, I think he had the first half of the film already edited by the time they did the Christmas break.
Or at least he did it on the Christmas break. Yeah.
So, I mean...
Well, you mentioned, and then the amount of shots, he covers it like crazy. Like, he over covers it. So we're talking about, you know, the amount of work that he's getting done in such a short amount of, you know, like two days on that WGON set, and he got 7 minutes worth of film, which is unheard of in Hollywood standards. But to consider also that he overshot it. He could have given you that scene 79 different ways because of the way he probably shot every little sequence 9 different angles, you know, medium, close up, wide, above, below, to the side. So
that's where
that's
where his commercial background comes into play, because like at WGON you could kind of see it. Like if you watch like some of his commercials, the tight editing, it's definitely in play in the TV station.
Yeah, I think it's just that fear of getting out of there and not having it shot. You know, walking away from a hard day's work and not having it actually all there. He just overshot it just to make sure he had it. And that lent to his style. So when, you know, I always say once he, you know, I think Day of the Dead is where he really started going Hollywood, where you kind of didn't see that anymore. He was going for that. It's crazy because as we grow with Romero, we come to love, we see him grow as a filmmaker and an editor, and we come to love what he's made, and all he wants to do is be like the Hollywood people, and it's kind of frustrating. Like, no, we like you about it.
I mean, is Hollywood a bad thing? I guess it's subjective, but I mean, there's certain things that people do in Hollywood that I think work for independent filmmakers, certain ways of making movies, and especially in terms of technical stuff, you know, camera shots, camera equipment, how you do stuff. I think that transcends regardless of the genre or the type of filmmaker you are. And George may have seen something and said, oh, I want to try that. I want to see how that works for me. And he probably adopted some stuff that he had seen, and people probably adopted some stuff they saw of George's. You know, it's very...
Well, I think his style was definitely out of necessity. He didn't have, you know, didn't have the comfort of the, you know, Hollywood level equipment, so he overshot things. But when he did have Hollywood luxury, he bathed in it, you know.
And I think too, he thought, well, what, you know, can I do? Can I make my film look Hollywood with a minimum amount of money? So it's probably an experiment. You know, and again, I'm speaking way out of left field. Like I was not in George's mindset, nor have I ever talked to him about it. But, you know, he's like, well, if they can shoot a movie looking like this with this amount of money, can I do the same type of technical stuff on a fraction of it and make it look just as good? Because I mean, that's how you can. I mean, I have that Steadicam for my iPhone. You can make a beautifully looking movie with a inexpensive piece of equipment in your iPhone, as long as you learn how to do it. And I'm sure George was always a student. You know, he didn't seem like he was always stuck in his ways. But it sounds like he picked up.
He was a little bit though, because you remember when Gornick was like, "Get that Steadicam horse shit out of here."
Yeah,
and you think about, you know, how much easier that would have made him, especially on something like Dawn or Night Riders, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's certain things that he probably stuck to like that. Yeah, you know, the Steadicam stuff. But I mean, I'm sure
or the old hat editing style too. Like I think, was it Jim said it was it was Night Riders or Creep Show. Somebody was like, "You're not using that editing bay on this production."
Yeah. Yeah.
I forget which movie it was. But
Yeah.
finally,
But-
they told him to quit.
Yeah. And I mean, that's, I think filmmakers are always students. For as much as they know, I think they're always trying to learn to improve themselves. And I think Dawn was the beginning of George's big evolution. Because I see Dawn and Martin being shot very differently. There's a lot of similarities, but when I look at it, I see as he's trying more stuff on Dawn, probably obviously with the budget, he had the ability to. But to me, Dawn's the start of where they stop looking like Martin, Season of the Witch. There's always vanilla, and
They went to 35. That was the big deal.
Yeah, yeah. But
35 was huge.
Yeah.
No, but I hear you. I mean, it's more than just 35. It was well, I mean, geez, the crew on this was enormous.
Yeah, I mean, probably 10 times the amount that he had just for Martin.
Yeah.
And again, I think that all has a lot to do with it, but now it gives him probably a little bit more flexibility where he doesn't have to be so hands-on all the time, where he can stop and think, hey, I can do it this way, I can do it this way, or hey, you know what, we have the time and the people, let's get all 10 shots in today, where before, if it was Martin, he might not have been able to do 10 shots. He might have only been able to do 5 because, he's got to be moving lights and he's got to be moving equipment and everybody has to be doing it. Where here, your actors don't have to be part of the crew. I'm sure they chipped in and helped and, it was a family atmosphere, but there was enough people to where it let George start to spread his wings and really probably start to do some of the stuff that he had always wanted to do. And I think that carries through Day of the Dead and even beyond.
Before we get out of here, do you have any more of your artwork handy? Daniel Lowry was requesting. He missed the beginning of the show, Jace.
I've got the ones I showed already. I've got this. Get my hand out of there.
What is what format is that? Or what did you use?
This is it's 12 by 12 canvas, like you can see on the back, like it's a pre-primed. I don't know if you can see that. Like I buy them at Michael's pre-primed already with the black prime, so I don't have to put the black gesso on. Saves a step. And so both of these are color pencil and acrylic on canvas. So here.
There you go.
Try and get the light better on it.
You deal mainly with the colored pencils, right?
It's about 50-50 because I was dealing with just acrylic for the longest time and then just pencil, and then these were kind of the hybrid of that. And I found that mixing them together works pretty well. Okay. So like with these, I've done or shown in the past like some of the in progress stuff. Like I just recently posted a Bub one that's like a watercolor pencil. And so this, I basically like the image I draw on in pencil, and then I go over it with paint. And this one, I think you kind of see it here. There's like some Sharpie in there too. So it's like a whole bunch of stuff.
Very cool.
Okay.
How do you get that glazed look on the eye?
White acrylic.
Very cool.
Oh, and then there's this. I showed this earlier.
Yes.
The poster.
Another
Flyboy. I had thought about it. I was going to bring out some of my like the illustrations I have, like because I've got another Flyboy. I've got a Bub. I've got some George ones. I've got a few.
Okay.
But I'll be posting them on my Facebook later.
Awesome. And are these are for sale on your Etsy, or some of these are?
Well, the two Dawn ones are not. Those were the ones that were going to be for the Goblin piece.
Right.
And I think what I'll end up doing is I'll put that out myself. Just since it didn't happen, I'll still put it out. And I don't know if I'll put a Goblin logo on it or not. I'll have to talk with their management and see what they have to say, because that was the plan before that tour fell apart.
Okay. Yeah, that stinks. That tour fell apart. That was an amazing opportunity for us. I mean, for you to see the show, but also to get your work out there with their name on it.
And to my thing was like the meet and greet. I did. I met Claudio Simonetti's Goblin last year, and they were awesome. But it's like Pink Floyd or Van Halen or whatever.
Van Halen, that's perfect.
Yeah,
that's a
where
perfect
you've got
example.
like different factions. You've got your Van Hagar and your David Lee Roth. It's like some people. It's like, but you could like both sides.
Yeah, I agree. It's just a shame that it seems that the band is, they actually are squabbling, or the original members. It's a shame, but I mean, they can go. They should just be able to go do their own thing and just not bother each other.
Yeah, the first time I saw them was Massimo and Claudio. That was like their first U.S. tour in 2014, and then they kind of split off after that to Claudio
almost immediately, right?
Yeah, it was like they did that show, and it was such a short run. I saw them in Baltimore, and I was like right up front the whole night, which was just awesome. And they didn't show any of the movie behind them. They just played all the hits, and then I saw Claudio Simonetti's Goblin when they did Suspiria last year.
That's what I saw.
They did the movie, and then they did a whole set afterwards for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
it was like a 4-hour concert. It was fantastic.
Who Suspiria?
Yeah,
I saw them do Deep Red. Or
I would have preferred them to do Deep Red. I like both.
But it was Suspiria. I'm sorry, it was Suspiria.
I prefer Deep Red to Suspiria, which I would have liked, but 6 and 1/2 a dozen of another for me mainly. But I remember Claudio, something on his band had that curved guitar, that curved keyboard. Have you ever seen it play that? I'm like, that is the weirdest looking thing in the world. I don't know if it's an Italian thing or a rock thing, but it was weird.
It's cool.
You probably know, Jace.
Yeah, I don't know what that keyboard is, but I was impressed when I saw it, and of course, impressed with his playing. It's like, man, he's getting up there, but he still can play just the same as he ever did. And Claudio's been one of my favorites, since '78, and it's funny because his contributions in Goblin are most of what I like because I play keyboards, and that you guys probably have followed it. Like he kept the Goblin name going for a long time when Goblin wasn't, doing Claudio Simonetti Horror Project, those kind of things. He's always had like his different variations in Demonia. Like I was following all that.
That tour, Matt, the first time they came, there was actually 2 members of Demonia in that group, and then it was Massimo, Claudio, and Maurizio with the 2 Demonia guys.
Yeah.
And then they came back for a second leg. I saw them. I saw them opening night, their first show in Atlanta, and then I saw them on their final show on the second leg of that tour in North Carolina, and then it was the 4/5 Goblin where they brought the bass player and drummer back, which is who you won the contest with, Jace, correct? Which that lineup is amazing. Like I would travel, and I traveled to Nashville to see that lineup the second time. They're really amazing. I mean, it's very thick, robust, full-blooded sound. They kicked my ass, and I was really hoping that they would come back. I was going to go see them in New Orleans on that tour where you had the poster, Jace.
Yeah, they were supposed to do it. Yeah, they were supposed to do another tour a couple of years ago, and they ended up canceling the show. And I was a little pissed off about that. I mean, because I wanted to see them. Yeah, I think that's what it was. And it got canceled. And I was like, shit, because I wanted to see them again. But I remember
you got to get those other 2 guys autographs too.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah. I got Massimo and Claudio and Maurizio on my. I think it was on my Dawn LP. The one Italian one with the it's just the picture of the skating rink with the silhouette of the zombie walk.
Yeah, I like that.
Such a weird cover.
I like that one,
but I like it.
I think Jace is reaching for it now.
Yeah, I have it right here.
It's such a weird cover, but I love it. And that's what I love. And when we were talking earlier about Dawn merchandise, it's like, give me something just 10 degrees off of center of what you've been given.
WGON jammy pants. Come on.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
Yeah,
was
the
is that
Wolf.
Spine Chiller or which one
Spine
is that?
Chiller, yeah. And so, do you guys know about the specs on the Second Sight set? There's supposed to be like the incidental music included on that.
Couple of CDs worth, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think it's something that we don't already have, or that isn't like available now? Or
no, I think it'll just be widely available as a CD rather than trying to track down an LP.
I would be shocked if it's complete. I know for a fact that goes over 3 CDs.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
we're about what, 6 weeks out?
Yeah, we're getting close.
Well, from release, whether or not we get it.
Yeah.
I know.
Stateside,
it'll be November. It'll be more of a Thanksgiving get.
We might be in a new administration when we get our copies.
I've also seen, because I forget who I pre-ordered it through, but I know I pre-ordered it for more, and I've seen that Zavvi US has it for like $99 right now.
I saw that.
It's on deep discount as well.
Is it?
Yeah,
it's
a
like
little
I gotta
pricey.
look up to see who I might have pre-ordered it through them, because I think I pre-ordered it for like $130.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine in England. I ordered a copy, it's shipping to him, and he's going to ship to me. And then I think what was this Second Base or
Base? Yeah, I did one with them.
I ordered the 4K and the Blu-ray set, so I'll have 2 4K sets and a Blu-ray set to have. And God, we talked about not having enough space earlier, and this beast is going to come in.
Oh, that's true. I got to make room.
Well, and that Friday the 13th box set is probably going to be a good 14 inches long with all those discs.
And also, I mean, on that note of like my reorganizing my stuff, I just, I just had the idea that I was going to put all my Fulci stuff together as like its own display, because I've got tons of zombie stuff. I just got that zombie mixed up puzzle.
Oh, I saw that. I saw you post that.
And then it's like, oh, I've got a lot of zombie stuff. And it's like, oh, I've got a lot of City Living Dead stuff. I've got a lot of Beyond stuff. So it's like I got to figure out.
Did you get the Living Dead at Manchester Morgue Synapse release?
Yes. It's awesome.
That is a great release. I absolutely love that.
And that was the movie I was going to show after Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that'd be they'd make a good double feature. That one. Yeah. That one's starting to get a little bit more love in the last couple of years that I've seen.
Because I saw that the 4K remaster was playing last year at festivals.
Mm-hmm. I saw that. yeah, I didn't get a chance to go see it then. Hopefully they'll bring it back around, or even seeing it on 35 is something I want to see.
I want to give a quick shout out to Will Wellpley. He says he saw the Claudio do Deep Red, and he also saw Fabio Frizzi, which I had a chance to see, which was a very cool show. Did you have a chance to see him, Jace?
I saw him in San Francisco at the Chapel. It was awesome. I mean,
Beyond,
almost like it's just like a retrospective that he was doing.
Okay,
he wasn't performing. I mean, he had projections going on for different films, like what Goblin's doing, and but I mean, his band was killer.
And
they
were tight.
It was in a place called the Chapel, so it was like a converted church, which was perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I interviewed Maurizio Guarini, I don't know, it's better part of 10 years ago now, or it was around the time, 2013, 2014, around the time of those first tours. And he said that it was himself, Agostino, and Fabio. They were playing on Fritz's music. That's them.
Wow.
So it's basically Fabio Frizzi is Goblin.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And because I just figured every bass player in Italy was just bad freaking ass.
Yeah. It's also funny because that was the thing I was thinking of, like in putting together my Fulci collections. Like Fulci has Fabio Frizzi doing those awesome soundtracks. And then, Dario brought in Goblin for Dawn. And of course, that made me a diehard Goblin fan. And it's interesting because the Italian connection for both of these, badass composers.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That become totally connected with the movies.
Well, it's also, you kind of have like Fritzi, Simonetti, then you have Argento, Fulci, and they all bring their own little flavor to that
Yeah.
genre, Italian horror.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're all, they all have their own little, like I guess I already said it, flavor, but it's the same thing, but just different. It's presented differently. I love it all. It's all good quality stuff. Whereas, I think I used to kind of think down upon the Fritzy stuff a little bit because it's kind of minimalist. It's a little, it can be a little simplistic, one note kind of stuff. Whereas Claudio, kind of tees off, is more of a maestro, but it's both great stuff, equally great in different ways. Well, that's cool. I'm glad you got to see Fabio. Yeah, I saw he actually played over the Beyond, which was nice.
Oh,
that was
yeah,
really
I'd
cool.
love to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did like mini sets when I saw him. Like he did a mini set of the Beyond where they showed some of the visuals, like what Goblin does, like where they do their, and now zombies, and they showed the Dawn of the Dead stuff to do a mini set of. It's like, yeah.
Well, all right. I guess we've crossed the 2-hour mark. I think we got a good show out of this, Jace. We'll have to do this more often. Maybe you can come back for a future minute or something, or
definitely
just an update.
And,
anything, man.
You know what we haven't discussed?
What did we?
Omar.
Oh shit! Daniel was supposed to produce Omar.
Damn it, Dan.
No, I swear, Omar.
I wonder if Omar will see this and film a rebuttal.
Yeah.
We never found him again, did we?
Ask Omar.
No.
God.
I don't know if his YouTube channel is up anymore. It's like I subscribed to it and I'd saved or marked some of his videos as favorites just because entertainment value. And I don't know. I can't find it. Like in my list of all my stuff, I can't find it.
Oh, man. God, freaking Omar.
We've got to go back to the old posts and find where we actually posted about him.
Well, it started off where he jumped on one of the Dawn of the Dead boards on Facebook and was like everybody else, like super fanning out, making declarations about it. And then Norman, of all people, came in and corrected him on something, which, as he should. And then it started the feud between them. And then we're all like, no, you don't mess with Norman.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not. He's the wrong guy. Get off of his lawn.
Yeah,
because I remember
he's the OG.
Oh yeah, no, he's all who we strive to be. I forget who it was. He came in. It wasn't Omar, but it was someone a couple years later. I remember he tried to come in and say that Dawn of the Dead was like an allegory about the AIDS epidemic, and I was like, dude, AIDS wasn't discovered till like 3 years after Dawn came out. And he's like, I was like, dude, don't double down. Like, when
That's
was AIDS
discovered?
Do. Put it in your Google machine and put when was AIDS discovered? And it was like 1981. And it's like, George is progressive, just not, he's not a fortune teller. He didn't have a crystal ball and he's like, It's all about AIDS. I'm like, no, he didn't want to have any of it. And he reminded me of Omar. Omar wasn't having any of it.
It's the weird thing too, because, we all are super enthusiastic about Dawn and the Romeroverse. And it's the thing when you see someone else super enthusiastic, it's like, oh, cool. And then when they're just making strange, nonsensical facts about it, it's like, wait a minute. And
especially when they
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, especially when they go against things George has come out and said.
Right.
Yeah. I'm like, no, George says it's not about that. Oh, yes, it is. No, George is. Yeah. I'm like,
well, it's weird. These people that jump out there and just start posting things like this in communities that have clearly been there for a long time. There's thousands of members, but they're going to come in with their 10 cents worth of data and inform everybody. And then you're like, hey, because at first you're always like, hey, we kind of know what we're talking about. No, that's not it. You kind of try and take like a casual tone with them. 100% of the time, it's like a complete rejection of everything you're saying. Wrong. I'm the man.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest dynamic. You see it all the time. It's like,
I also have to wonder, it's like, how are they discovering Dawn at this late stage? Did they find VHS in a thrift store? Because it's not playing anywhere. It's not streaming. Unless they found it on YouTube. I mean, because it is on YouTube.
Yeah, and it seems like they discover Dawn and create a Facebook page and are coming to educate people like they never knew about it. They're like, I don't think
Right.
people know about this movie. You've never watched this movie like this before, and this is why Dawn of the Dead means this, or this is. And it's sometimes interesting to see some of the theories or the way that people watch it, but then usually after like their third post, you start going, yeah, I don't think they get it.
Right.
And I don't mean that derogatory, but it's like and it's like, okay, how are you watching this? You know,
Well,
it's like, did you Google Dawn of the Dead before you started posting about it? Because some people just missed the boat.
I posted on one of the Dawn of the Dead Thursdays, like after I did the screening, I got like while I was promoting it, I got tons of hate mail of people saying like, I've got my facts wrong. You got your facts wrong. It was the whole there was a guy that sent me an instant message. He wasn't a friend because I was posting clips advertising the screening as 40th anniversary, and so I had it wrong for the long time because 78 is accurate for Europe, 79 is accurate for the U.S. It was Peter that hit me to that, and it's like, oh, and that when I saw where it screened at Tower, it was like, oh, okay. Screened in April or May of 79.
Yeah.
And when I saw it at the Coliseum in San Francisco, it was, I think, May of 79.
Yeah. And the 78, 79 thing's just been around since day one. And it's always been de facto 78 because of the first time it appeared in public everywhere. And in recent years, it's changed to more of the 79, 78, argument because it had a weird release. A lot of people don't know that it didn't premiere nationwide in 1979.
Right.
It went
from staggered.
It was in certain markets. They probably only had so many prints. They'd run here, ship them back, and then they shipped them here and they shipped them there. And that's not something I think a lot of people, even like us, knew 20 years ago. You didn't think about it. Right. But Peter shows his clips on the archive, and you can go back and see. Yeah, it didn't appear in my neighborhood until August of 79, but its U.S. premiere is April or whatever.
Yeah,
it's a lot of times you can have fun with it. To me, it's still 78. I think it's just been ingrained in me so long. I'm okay with it premiering overseas first and calling it 78, but. It doesn't take away. It doesn't change anything.
Yeah, this guy was like, "You ruined it." It's like I've damaged the film. Like I've ruined the legacy. It's like, hey, wait a minute.
Destroyed the negative.
I'm the guy that's actually paying money out of pocket to screen the movie in a theater.
That's right. You're single-handedly taking it down.
I paid for Facebook ads for like a couple weeks, and they were running afterwards, and people were like, you could take the ad down now, it's already done. It's like, it's out of my control. Like I'm sitting there pressing a button. Yeah, it's like I'm pressing a button going, send. I gotta sell more tickets.
Hey, it's going to be a bit of a letdown, but I did do a search in one of the Dawn of the Dead groups, and I did find a friend of the show, John Scott, had a post up that said, "What happened to Omar's thread? I still have questions." And it's, of course, there's 189 comments. And Larry says he deleted it himself. It wasn't him. So I guess Omar kind of scrubbed the net of his existence.
Oh,
but,
man.
I'm looking in the thread, though. Matt, me and you are just all in this thing.
You have to send me the link to that thing because it's been a while since I've revisited that classic day.
Here, I don't even know the context of this comment that I made, but it says Dawn of the Dead was a short film. Who knew? Thank fuck for Wikipedia. Wait a minute, these idiots, they thought Night was going to be good, but not until Dawn was changed from a short film concept to what we know and love today.
Oh,
Thank
I
you,
remember
Russo.
that. I remember that, where he had said something about the three stages, which isn't untrue, but like Romero's original three acts.
There's a morsel of truth in there.
Yeah. It's just like read a little bit more.
Or just read it a couple more times. And get better at it. I think of like a movie like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I know, I understand it's a good film. I've never seen it, but if I go watch it if I go watch it this afternoon, you're not going to catch me on the fan page tonight trying to educate people that already know about the damn movie.
or create a YouTube channel and talk about it. He had, well, Matt, you remember, he had a YouTube video where he was talking about Dawn of the Dead remake versus Dawn of the Dead 78. And he's just talking about how much he doesn't like the Dawn of the Dead remake and that he wanted to throw the disc out of the window. And on the monitor behind him is the Dawn of the Dead remake disc. It's in his player. Like it's right there. It's like, you just watched it.
Yeah.
You gotta let it marinate.
Yeah.
Oh man, he was such a great flash in the pan there for a couple of days or a couple of hours or whatever it was. But
oh man,
yeah, we keep his spirit alive.
Hashtag Ask Omar.
Yeah.
I wish I could just see some of those original posts. Those are so fun in the videos. I mean, and you know what? Yeah, like you said, there's a little bit of truth to what he said. Like he gave like a top 10, and it's like it's actually not a bad top 10, but the rationale was so off.
Yeah.
It's like, but not for those reasons.
Yeah. He was an interesting character for sure. I mean, he's got a legacy now, an unintentional legacy.
Yeah.
I know, and that was his intent. He wanted to come in and be the man, and he became the man.
I mean, he wasn't even in the same ballpark to be the man. It was just like I just had to scratch my head. just I'm like, okay.
Well, I mean, he like I got where he's coming from. He started a YouTube channel where he was, I guess, going to dissect horror films, and he's a horror expert. But like everything that he put out, it's like, nah, not really.
Or yes, but not for those reasons.
Right. My favorite, which I still use to this day, like it's my wife. I showed her the video. I think it was in the Dawn of the Dead video where he says, art is hard. Let's give it up for art. I use it all the time when she's like, you can draw. It's like, yeah, let's give it up for art.
That Omar says this? Give it up for art?
Yeah, art is hard.
That's a hashtag.
Yeah, give it up for art. You're right. No more Ask Omar.
This guy's going to start a revolution.
He is. Oh, yeah, he was going to make a zombie movie, I remember, on his channel. Like he was talking about his script he was writing. So, yeah.
Man.
Well,
he's probably on a subreddit somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
Check Reddit. See if there's any users named Omar and Dawn of the Dead, and see if he's on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's got to be somewhere.
I'm going in the Wayback Machine for this one.
We're gonna have to find that one.
Dig this.
I wonder if are you able to do YouTube videos in the Wayback Machine?
Probably not. I don't know. It seems like a lot of bandwidth, but
yeah.
Oh, we'll have to check. We'll find Omar. We'll have him on the show.
Yeah. He's on. He's as good as on. Daniel, I don't know if you're still there, Daniel. Find this man, produce him.
Let's go, Dan. You're on the clock.
Wait, give me that. Was props? Give me props to art. What was it again?
Give it up for art. Art is hard. Give it up for art.
Give it up for
clapping.
Art. All right. Well, I think we should close with that one, Jace. We'll give it up.
That sounds about right.
Whoop for art.
Yeah.
Ask Omar. No, this has been fun, Jace. We need to do this again sometime.
Definitely, it's been a blast.
If you ever got something coming up you want to promote, or if you just want to hop on for a minute, you're more than welcome, man. You're part of the fam, bro.
Yep. Cool.
All right. Well, I think that we've got some announcements coming soon. We got some show stuff coming up. We just don't know when we can announce it. So
yeah, we have a lot in the chamber.
Mm-hmm.
So be on the lookout for the rest of September and October. We're gonna be busy. So hopefully you guys will want to tune in. I mean, we have a lot of hardcore Romero stuff. We have a lot of bigger stuff. A lot of fun guests lined up. A lot of fun, interesting type of shows. Yeah, you're gonna like what we're working on behind the scenes. There's gonna be a lot coming out, especially for the Halloween season. Like I said, lots and lots of Romero stuff. To hopefully, fit the appetites that you guys probably have. More Dawn minutes. Yeah,
we're stepping our game up.
Yeah,
but we can't talk too much about it.
Yeah, almost too much to talk about, but the list of stuff we have coming, we think you guys are really, really going to enjoy.
All right. Well, until next time, we should have an announcement coming out before too long for another show coming up in the next couple of weeks. But until then, I'm Eric.
And I'm Matt.
I'm Jace.
You've been watching WGON Network.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. Thank you.